All right. We're alive. And hopefully we're going to last longer than 6 seconds before it turns off. Hey, everyone. So I'm waiting for everybody to get in because, yeah, I'm going to tell you the story of what happened. Welcome back after 2 weeks of being away.
Well, 2 weeks, because
what? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't go to that Dark Sky event. Yeah, we did stream because I didn't go to the Dark Sky event. That got canceled. That it's a very expensive cancellation. The people I was supposed to be going down with 2 other people, and one of them came down with spinal meningitis. Viral, fortunately, because the bacterial will kill you. The viral won't. It just makes you very sick and very uncomfortable. And he came down with viral meningitis and was hospitalized. So the other one was like, "Yeah, I don't think I want to go either." And I didn't really feel comfortable going to the middle of a desert to primitive camp by myself, and especially last week, especially everything in the Central Valley in California was flooding, and there was a lot of rain due in, and it was just some pretty hellacious storms. So I would have had to go through a very storm racked area where there were broken levees and towns flooding. And it's not like the whole of Central California was like that, but it was not like ideal circumstances to be going into. Number one. Number two, nobody that was down there would have known it was expecting me. And number three, if I didn't get home, nobody would know I was, like I could leave something with my neighbor, but the neighbor might not know. Like I might disappear and no one would know for at least 4 or 5 days, and that's a bad idea. So I just thought discretion, better part of valor. I'm not gonna go down. So we streamed last weekend, but we didn't actually, gameplay streams. In fact, we played with Chenderbox, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was totally fun. And I've since played with him, I think, again, and had a great time.
Oh.
And I think I played with Chris. Yeah, I think I played with me, Chris. I think it was Chris and Chenderbox. It was or maybe it's just me and Chenderbox. I can't remember who it was. It was fun. It's still that game still remains to be fun for me. And we're talking about Battlefield 2042. But so yeah, let's talk about this. I'm reading the title of this, and it's still starting to hit me. I didn't just buy a Tesla. I bought a Tesla, well, now 10, 12 minutes ago. I literally just bought the car right before we went online. Spent all yesterday from pretty well 11 o'clock in the morning all the way until 7 o'clock at night when everything closed. Test driving cars, test driving EVs. And got a really good sense. They're all very different. Like,
really?
Yeah. You go for like combustion engine cars, they feel like, they're just like little things that it's a combustion engine. They sort of almost all feel the same. Then it becomes like ride and maybe a little bit of acceleration. Oh gosh. They all feel like different cars. All of them. Like very different cars. Like Tesla and the Ioniq feel like totally different cars. And honestly, I really did like. So here's the cars that I tested. I tested the IQ4 from VW, which is one that I was initially thought I was going to buy. I tested the Kia EV6. Sorry, yes, the Kia EV6. I tested the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and I tested the Tesla this morning. And I just bought the Tesla. The Ioniq, sorry, the IQ4, the Volkswagen IQ4. I'm not gonna lie, I liked its look the best, and I really, really, really liked a lot about it. It had a lot of features in it. Like I was quoted $57K plus out the door. A lot of features in it that are really luxury, that are even more luxury than some of the more luxury cars that I drove. But the whole Well, first off, it feels heavy. It is a heavy it feels like if you like an SUV ride where you're riding a tank,
Mhm.
this feels like you're riding a tank. We t
Wow.
we took that car out into the probably the worst public road in the Bay Area, and we hit every pothole. Every pothole, and it rode it like a dream. It
Hmm.
ba you could have put a glass of champagne on the dashboard going over a hard road, and it would not move. It was gorgeous. Ian and I were both looking at each other. My brother went with me, and we were looking at each other like, "Oh, let's hit some more potholes." It amazing. It felt heavy and firm and a tank, and you closed the door, and it was like, "Funk." It really felt like a substantial vehicle. So if you like that substantial vehicle
How
feel,
big was
that's the
it?
car
Was
you want.
it like the size of a sedan or the size of an SUV?
It's a crossover, so it's like a large hatchback small SUV.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all of these are in that SUV crossover, kind of somewhere hatchbacky slash USUV-ish.
Oh, okay, okay.
But this one was super heavy and super solid, just like it felt like a beast. And its acceleration was, I mean, that was the very first electric car I drove, and it makes your heart pump a little bit.
Oh,
If you've never driven an electric car and you put your foot down on that thing, you're like, "Uh-oh, uh-oh.
does it move
This is dangerous."
too fast or too
Oh, yeah.
slow?
Oh, fast.
Oh,
All
okay.
all electric vehicles ride fast. Now, for electric vehicles, this is one of the slower accelerations, and I'm like, "Oh god, that's the slowest?" It's 6 it's, 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. That's one of the slowest.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the slow one. But I would have bought that car absolutely before I even walked and tested anything else, with the exception of one thing. Absolutely everything in that car is touch. Like, everything
Mm,
is like touch swipe, touchy, touchy,
that
and it's
oh my
got
god.
this
That okay. I've cars are, like, going that way,
right. Everything is
and
going that way.
it's the worst design decision they could possibly make.
Right. It's a great decision for somebody who owns a car for 3 years and then sells it. I marry my cars. My car I am trading in is a
No,
2009 Vibe.
no, I think even just for someone who has the car for a day,
Right.
touchscreen interfaces are not good for vehicles on the road because it's all the same, right? It's all you have to look down and hit
Well,
the thing on there. There isn't
all the interfaces, all of the computer interfaces are touch. It's all of the other stuff that's touch. Everything like it's got this massive like the whole top of the car is glass, and it's got a screen that comes over electric screen that will come over it. And everything is like touch. It's swipe, touch, swipey, which is a lot of things that can go wrong. Like it could one of those breaks, you're kind of fucked. There is no button. It's
that's
a swipe.
that's what they really want is they want you when a car breaks, they want you to take it into them to get repaired.
Mhm.
It's like a roundabout way to cut out the cheaper repair alternatives.
Right. But it is a gorgeous car, ton of space. Absolutely love it. But the actual screen, because the cars have a touch screen, some kind of touch screen controls. The screen is fiddly and not very attractive, but it's like it takes oh my god, it's the most unintuitive screen controls ever. And I knew that was the fact because that was what Car and Driver and everybody else is saying. It's like, yeah, touch screen is not that great. And I was like, yeah, it's not so bad. And then I drove other ones and I'm like, oh yeah, it is that bad. But it's a big screen that sits right out in front and it looks like it wasn't made to be in the car. It looks like the car was made and then they tacked that on.
Hmm.
So that it was still, okay, but I wanted to try other stuff. Of course, I walked out, tried the Kia, which was actually considered more luxury than anything else I drove, and I was the least happy with it.
Really?
It it felt lighter, but it felt floaty, and it felt kind of, I don't know, it just didn't I'm sure some people will love that feel of like the floaty, feathery feel, but it felt very feathery, but especially when you're going from one to the other. And also the ID4, holy crap, that thing, the steering on it is just twitchy, 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 twitchy.
Mm.
The ID4 was like more like creamy with its steering, but almost too creamy. It didn't feel like my car, not gonna lie. And I really wasn't impressed with everything it had. Then I tried the Ionic 5. The Ionic 5, actually I'll throw some of these up here, and I'm gonna give credit to the dudes. Actually, I didn't want to do that. So you could see what I'm talking about when I say when I talk about these cars, so that you can say, hey, this is what I like, you know, these are the what I like styling. This is what I actually like what it looks like. I'm gonna pull up some Motor Trends so that you can see what I'm talking about. So this was the ID4 that I tried. And let me get this up. So yeah, this is the ID4. Absolutely a gorgeous car, but it doesn't look that big, but it feels very tanky. It's heavy. All of its batteries are actually in the lower frame. They've separated them out, so they lowered the center of gravity. So all the heaviness, the most heavy part of the car, is actually in the frame at the bottom, and that's why it rides everything so well.
Hmm.
But yeah, that screen in the front is unintuitive and fiddly as fuck. So the next one that I looked at, like I said, was the Kia. It was the one that is like, I want to say like $15,000 more than the one I was looking at with Volkswagen.
Do you
And
remember what the name was
what,
of the car?
Kia
Yeah.
EV6.
Okay.
So the Kia EV6 is considered much more luxury. The key is that it does not, because it's made in Korea, it doesn't get the federal tax refund of $7,500. So I was already taking $7,500 hit. Then it's another like $14,000 more than the ID4. And it feels very luxury, but it doesn't actually feel like it's feathery. That's what I best I can say. It's feathery, and I was not impressed with. I was more impressed with the controls, but honestly, I'm not that impressed with the actual car itself.
Looking at the inside looks very fancy and sleek.
Oh yeah, the inside. Let's see if they have an inside. Yeah, and that was when you actually got that. It felt more integrated. Like you can see that the touchscreen and all that stuff feels very integral to the
Oh
car.
yeah.
Whereas when you're looking at let me see if I can go back to the ID4. If they'll show you on the inside. Come on. It's got to be on the inside. They were going to show you. They must have something on the inside here. There we go.
Yeah.
If you look at the ID4, yeah, and it's, oh God, the room in that thing is incredible. But that thing in the front, it just feels like it's kind of sort of tacked on in there. The actual, back it up a little bit. See if I can. That
only there for a
actual
brief
thing,
second.
it does not show right there, but it feels very much like tacked on in that space. And it's this super bright orange and blue and white, and it just felt garish. And then if you'll notice right up in here, this is very small. And it has so much information in it that it's just crammed in, so you can't keep track of shit very easily. You have to kind of learn how to read your car. That was the thing that was like, didn't have me just writing a check at that point. The next one that I looked at was, and I'll just pull this up since you've already seen it. Next one I looked at was the Ionic 5. The Ionic 5 is Motor Trend Car of the Year. And it is a really, really nice car.
Okay.
They have a paint job that actually I've never considered actually paying more for paint, but I almost paid, like, if I would have bought it, I would have paid the extra 1,000 for this color right here, which is called
The matte?
yeah, yeah. It it looks like was it RoboCop? It's called Shooting Star, and when you see it, you're like, oh, that's a car. They also have a teal called Cyber Teal that when you look at pictures of it, it looks like a teal car, but when you're actually in front of it, it looks different colors at different from different angles.
Oh, well, that's kind of cool.
That car was nice, and I actually ended up looking at the limited, which I ended up with like, oh yeah, this is way too expensive. But it's got a heads-up display that's so cool. You actually can see as you're driving in your windshield. You see the speed you're going. You see a little sign that is the speed limit, and you can see it like lights up. There's a triangle on it, and it lights up when somebody is next to you, so that it tells you when somebody is in your blind spot.
Hmm.
And
That's
it's
good.
all on, like, on your, it's not on the screen on your dashboard. It's kind of very faint in front of you on the windshield. It's a heads up display. It is full force Star Trek holodeck shit right there. It's awesome. It also has not only heated seats, but cooling seats.
Hmm.
And its ride was really good.
Although, were those a subscription or were those just included if you bought it? Okay. Okay.
Included, and you bought most of this stuff. Actually, there's 3 trims on it. There's the SE, which is the low end, the SEL, which is the medium trim, and then the limited, which is the high end. I really was looking at the SEL, although I drove a limited, but the limited is really freaking cool. And actually, that was the first time I ever drove with a fully self-driving car.
Hmm.
That was on the freeway. That was terrifying. That you're in cruise control, like in traffic, on cruise, which to me right there, like everything in like the back of my head, all the alarms and bells and go off when I say cruise control in traffic, because that's fucking dangerous. That's how I've been trained, how I've learned all my life. Don't put your cruise control on in traffic because you will get into an accident. So of course I'm putting it on in cruise control. I take my feet off the thing, and then I just I kept my hands near the steering wheel, but the steering wheel was steering through, steering. And I had
Really?
yeah, talk about alarms going off in your fucking head to be in a car that is steering itself. You have to have trust. But the other thing that's really cool about this and showing this on the screen is that it actually not only you can charge the car, which means you go board to car, you can go car to board. Meaning, if you get the right adapter, you have to get an adapter for it. If you have that thing fully charged at home and there is a blackout, you can use that car as a power pack for your house.
Oh, neat.
You don't need a generator in an emergency. You've got your car is your battery pack, is your juice pack for your house. And it's kind of cool. It definitely felt for the price, especially the mid level, has enough luxury features where you go, yeah, that's a really good deal. And it is Motor Trend Car of the Year. It's got all, like, everything's motorized and it just feels great. But I ended up, of course, with, as I've said, the Tesla 5 minutes ago. And I just got the Tesla base Model Y. And Tesla Series Y. Okay. So yeah, I got the Tesla Model Y 2023, and I did not get it in red because it's an extra $3,000, and I just couldn't see myself spending an extra
how
$3,000.
much?
3,000.
Why is that
The
so
red?
much more for red?
Because it's Tesla red, which is awesome. I would have gotten it. And I'm not a red car person, but I would have gotten it.
That's stupid.
So the Tesla actually is interesting. You don't drive it with a brake. Like, you're used to, like, you drive with your throttle and then you brake. You don't do that with a Tesla. You drive it with just your throttle. And when you want to go faster, you press down. And when you want to go faster, even with the base model, the non-performance, this thing gets 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds. No, 5.3 seconds. No, 4.8 seconds. This thing gets to 0 to 60. It's ludicrous how fast this thing goes. And that's not even ludicrous mode. But the way that you drive it is that you press down when you want to go, and when you want to stop, you lift off the gas, and it actually starts to brake for you. So you have to learn how to drive it. The other ones felt more like a car. You could add that stuff to it. It's called regenerative braking. You can add the regenerative braking, like you can like have lever, like how much regenerative braking do you want on this vehicle? Do you want a lot of it? Do you want a little of it? Or do you want none? Those were options that you could do in all the other cars. You could turn it off. This one, you don't get to turn off the regenerative braking. But once you get used to it, which takes very short period of time, you just recognize it's a bit like riding my electric scooter. You have the brake if you want to stop, if you need to stop. But if you want to go faster, you push down. You want to go slower, you release off. And when you want to stop, you lift your hand off the pedal. Cut to Edie dashing through the car.
So, okay. So that means if you're on the road
Yeah.
and you need to slam on the brakes,
there is a brake.
You just lift your foot off the pedal?
No, you will. If you need to slam on your brakes, that's why there's a brake there.
Oh, so there is a brake pedal.
Oh, yes, there is a brake pedal. But
okay,
you want to, that's the brake pedal is where I need to stop now. But like you're driving down the road and you come to a stop sign, you see the stop sign coming. As it comes, you lift your pedal up a little bit, you start to slow down. And then when you get to the stop sign, you take your foot off the pedal and you stop. And then you want to go.
So then what happens if I'm going like 20 miles an hour and I just lift my foot completely off the pedal?
It'll slow down like you're coming to a stop sign.
Okay. How long does it take to slow down? Can you control that?
I did not see anywhere where you can actually control how much of the slowdown is there. I think that you can't on a Tesla, and I have to look into that. But it's a reasonable amount. Like if you take your foot off the pedal, like just go from where it's going 20 and take your foot off the pedal completely, it feels like you came to a stop sign at 20 miles an hour. Like, oh, all right, stop. All right, so you need to go forward. It doesn't float down. It's not a slow approach.
Okay.
The slow approach is from you lifting up your foot gradually as you come to that.
Okay, so if I just lift my foot up instantly, it does like.
Yeah, it's not a slam on the brakes kind of thing. It's like I came to a stop from 20 miles an hour.
Okay, interesting.
Whereas as opposed to it's not it's a more of a okay, we stopped. Now let's go. But also there's a reason why, two reasons. One, Tesla, the room in that thing is freaking crazy amount of room. And in addition, and then we're looking at the trunk right now, when you pull up underneath at the bottom of there's actually a little space underneath. Yeah, you can also lower from the back. There's a space underneath that's like an under wheel well there. Yeah, he's about to pull it up. That is huge. You can put a suitcase in that. It's a big space. You can't really see it very well. And then on top of that, there's a frunk. Now there's other cars that had frunks, but this frunk is actually large enough where you could put a briefcase in your frunk and it would be fine. Like you could easily put a briefcase, a purse, something you really didn't want to lose in your car. You put it in your frunk. No one's going to touch it. The other thing was the Tesla network. There's just way more Tesla charging stations everywhere. Now, Tesla is starting to open up their charging stations for non-Teslas, but it hasn't really rolled out into the Bay Area. They have quite a few of them in the New York area and on the East Coast, but they haven't really brought that out to the US. Like there, look, it's a big frunk. You can put So yeah, that's the safest place you could put your stuff in your car.
Okay.
And the third thing is, and not gonna lie, I know that absolutely nobody in the car industry will be listening to me, but if you're smart, you will listen to me as someone who just dropped $60,000 on a car, cash. I paid for the fact, even though I could get that other car for 57, I paid for the fact that I know if I go back there and say I want that $57,000 IQ4, I will then have to run the gauntlet of trying to figure out what hidden fees they added to that thing. And then I have to run the other gauntlet. Or first I have to go through negotiation of like, okay, well, 57 now what can you really give it to me for? Then I have to run the second gauntlet of going to finance. Now, even if you purchase cash, which I was doing, you still have to go through finance because then that's where they add things like doc fees, which are 100%. 100% doc fee is a bullshit fee. That is 100% profit to the dealership. There's the other added cost. And then, oh, do you want the gap insurance? Do you want the this? Do you want the that? And oh, do you want the clear coat? And it's like you have to go, no, 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 no. And so the fact that I could go to Tesla and I could go, how much is the Tesla? And they're like, put it into their public website that I could put it into at home. And it would show me how much it cost. And all of the fees were not substantially like bloated. Like the registration fee for the car was $297, which is what the registration fee is for this car. As opposed to when you go to a traditional dealership, the registration fee is going to be like $500, $600 because they add on extra fees. They add stuff. They pad that shit. The fact that I could just walk in and I know exactly what I'm getting. I know exactly how much it costs. I know that this is what it's going to cost me. This is what's going to cost them because Tesla dealerships are owned by Tesla, not by individuals, not by middlemen. There's not a middleman in there that needs to get a little, something out of everything. So the fees are all kind of different. There's no dealerships I have to play off of each other to get a better vehicle. I don't have to look at them and go, you're trying to rip me off. This is the price of the car. And that right there was really the deciding factor, the network and the fact that I don't have to go in and be on guard and negotiate and wonder how much I'm getting ripped off.
I feel like that says a lot about the car industry, that you picked this car not necessarily because of its own features, but because of everything around it.
Right.
You didn't choose this car because it was the best car. You chose this car because the process of buying it is easier.
Right. There were a lot of things in its favor. There were a lot of things that were in the Ioniq 5's favor. But ultimately it came down to the fact that the dealership that I went to originally set me up for the limited, and they came back with a price that was like, we can get you out the door on this for what it's listed as the manufacturer resale price. I'm like, great, cool. And then I started thinking about it and I go, that was 69,000. I'm like, 69,000 is more than I want to spend. Yeah, it's a great car. It's got all the features, got all the bells and whistles, but will I put my dog in the back seat of a $69,000 car? No. Those dogs, if those dogs drool or like, I'm never going to put a wet dog in the back of a $69,000 car. I'm just not going to. So I realized, I can't get the limited because it won't fit me. It won't fit my lifestyle, what I need. So guy came back and I'm like, you know what? Let's just go for the mid model. I don't need all the extra bells and whistles. It's considerably less expensive. I can see myself putting a wet dog in the back of the SEL, not the limited. So then he came back with the SEL and then he wanted to charge me. Well, first off, the sticker is like already like 63. And then I said, if you can get it to me out the door at 64, I'll take it. And the guy's like, I can get it out to you at I can get it out to you at like 67. And I'm like, wait a minute, you were about to give me the higher model at manufacturer's retail price. Now I'm saying give me the lower model at manufacturer resale price out the door. And he's like, no, we're going to actually add money to that because this is a very popular car. I'm like, you had one of the limited. I'm looking right now at 5 of the mid levels, and you're telling me that this is so popular. I'm like, okay. And then I went home, and it turns out that just down the road is another dealership that the starting price is 51 instead of 63. And it's like, that's a $10,000 difference between these two.
Yeah.
And I asked, I'm like, is it, add-ons? He goes, oh no, they're all exactly the same. So I realized that I would have to play this bullshit game of going from dealership to dealership. Well, this dealership gave it to me for this. What can you do? Well, this dealership can give it. I'd have to go, circulating around all of those to kind of find the right price. And yeah, I could go through Costco and get a price through them where they have no dealer markup, but still, I still have to go through once I've settled for the out the door price, I still have to go through the gauntlet of the R&I, the registration and insurance guys, even though I'm paying cash. So yeah, that was like, let's do Tesla. Let's do Tesla. I'm going to end up spending less money anyway. Another thing about Tesla, I didn't get it with like the performance package, which has the lane assist, which came on the other vehicle, right? If I want to add this, I just call them up and it's a $6,000 additional. I just call them and go, hey, can you add that now to my car? And they're like, yeah, no problem. Deep, deep, deep. And you turn it on. Now, yes, there's that part of you that's like, okay, it's already on the vehicle. Why am I not paying? But still, I mean, that's what they do. I can add any of the performance packages on them, or, well, I can't turn them off because once I paid for them, I pay for them. But if at any point in the future I want to add the performance package, I can just pay them the money and they'll add the performance package. They just update the software and give me the performance package software. Which I like that I could actually pay a little bit less now. I'll wait, 6 months, a year for the $6,000 for me to have the $6,000 in cash instead of having to add it to the finance or not, add it. I'd have to finance it essentially. So rather than finance, I could just wait until I actually have the cash, pay for it then. So yeah,
so when you bought the Tesla, you basically bought the high-end version of the car that was digitally handicapped to be the cheaper version.
No, that's the thing. It is not handicapped. All versions of the car you buy is the car you buy that's got the stuff on board. All of the vehicles, if you want to add that extra stuff, are $6,000 more. So like I got the base all-wheel drive. Why? If I wanted the long range all-wheel drive, why? That's a different car. If I want the performance all-wheel drive, that's a different car. If I want the autopilot, the enhanced autopilot, that's $6,000 on all of those across the board. So they all have the capability of having that. It's just whether you want to, quote unquote, unlock it on your car.
So you're not unlocking performance abilities on the car. You're just unlocking
safety features, autopilot.
It's just the self-driving,
right? Well, yeah. So the full self-driving is $15,000. I don't see myself ever doing that because the one time I did it, it scared the crap out of me.
Because it's a lie.
What do you mean it's a lie?
It's not full self-driving.
It's not full self-driving, but it did. The one I was in definitely was self-driving and autopilot in traffic.
Yeah, up until it's not.
Well, up until it goes off a cliff.
So
but that's 15,000, and then the enhanced self-driving, which will like you just hit a button and it will exit off the freeway for you.
So what I'm saying is I can't jailbreak my Tesla to increase its performance the same way you could a phone or a laptop or something.
Probably not. I haven't seen anybody jailbreaking their Tesla, but I don't know if anybody would want to jailbreak their Tesla. I mean, it is all safety features. Would you really want to have a jailbroken, autopilot that gets you off the freeway?
I believe they sell those little dongles that you attach to the steering wheel to make the software think your hands are still on the steering wheel. So yes, people have found ways to jailbreak the Tesla. They just do it analog instead of digital.
It's so silly. So yeah, I bought a Tesla. Now what? How long have I been talking? 35 minutes. I
Half an
bought a
hour?
Tesla 40 minutes ago.
Hmm.
And I'm picking it up on Friday. So yes, thank you for all those links. Yeah, Musk wins. You know what's really funny? I had a dream about Elon Musk last night.
Oh God. I don't know if I want to hear the rest of this story.
No, it's not one of those dreams. I dreamt. I only remember one single part of it, but I had gotten to bed so late last night because I was researching cars. I got to bed. Ian was coming out to meet me at 10 o'clock to go test drive a Tesla because they closed before we could get there. And so I ended up going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't mean to, but I was up so late researching stuff and essentially not only researching the cars, but researching how to get the best deal on a car.
Thank you, AC Race. From Vice. People are jailbreaking used Teslas to get the features they expect.
Yeah, a used Tesla I would absolutely jailbreak. But it was a bit of a stress dream because I was thinking to myself, I'm going to be test driving an EV, a Tesla,
Mhm.
and I'm going to be, on 5 hours of sleep. And I just remember a very small part of it that in my dream, I was driving Elon Musk's kids in the back. And somebody's like, or said, well, how are you feeling? How much sleep did you have last night? And I was like, I had 5 hours. They're like, you're driving Elon Musk kids with only 5 hours of sleep? What, are you crazy? That was my dream about Elon Musk. Was stress dream about not getting enough sleep.
Especially
So,
about kidnapping his kids.
yeah, it wasn't kidnapping. I was like his chauffeur. I was
Sure.
like, I was taking care of his kids or something like that.
Taken care of.
I was Elon Musk's nanny for a night. All right, so that's why we're late and I haven't prepped. Do you have anything to do? Because I lost everything when I restarted the
Like
I lost all of my tabs.
oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna pull a Nick and I did tabs because I
Oh yeah,
bought a Tesla 5 minutes before the show.
okay, that's not gonna be like your new identity, is it? You can't just be, I have a Tesla now. This is everything that makes me me.
Oh no.
Okay.
No.
Yes, I
It might be for a little while, but only because it's a new car. If
okay, yeah.
you've ever had a new car, you know that feeling of like your mind is obsessed with your new car for a very long period. Oh, the other thing it has that you could get, actually, I think it is on that actually you might have to pay for a little extra. I'm not sure. It's Sentry mode, where if any shenanigans are going on around your car, it sends a notice to your phone and it alerts you on your phone that somebody's messing with your car.
Hmm. Okay.
They call it Sentry mode. And they also have something called Joe mode. And I had to, and another thing I liked about Tesla, on their little screen, like, of all of these, like, modes and stuff that you can program, they've got little information buttons and it tells you what the mode is. So it's like, what is this? You can
Okay.
read what it is, which is nice. Any of the other ones, there's no, like, like, if you don't know what the mode is, you're gonna have to go read it somewhere. It's actually on the screen. So yeah, I had like, what's this Joe mode? Look, the information. It's like it quiets if you get the music on. It quiets the alerts and the alarms, because you have all these alerts and alarms go off, like, you're speeding, bing. You've got your foot on the gas and the pedal and the brake at the same time, bing. It's got all these alerts. It actually quiets the sound of the alerts in the back seat, not the front seat, but the back seat.
Hmm.
And it
Okay.
says on the instructions, for sleeping, because you don't want to wake up Joe's kids. And you just get the feeling that this was the engineer Joe who said, I really hate about, or maybe even a customer, I really hate about this car? Keeps on waking up my kids every time something goes bing. And his name was Joe. So it's like, you don't want to, and it says in the description, so you don't wake up Joe's kids.
Hmm. Okay. that's kind of funny.
So it's Joe mode.
Yeah.
All right. So I have to go back and find what okay,
Okay.
there are my 3 items.
Yes, I have tabs for news. I
All right.
don't have tabs for games, but I think all the stuff I played was stuff I've already done.
And I really didn't. I mean, you saw what I played.
Yeah, Battlefield.
Battlefield, as usual. Let's see. All right, and I've got my getting the rest of my my old tabs up through the my history. Okay, we got Sony, we got Starbucks, and then what's the third one?
Starbucks.
Yeah. Sony,
Yeah,
Starbucks,
AC Race.
Tesla. I'm looking at my history. Tesla.
AC Race had mentioned in Discord over the week that he beat both Ori games and Psychonauts 2. So he's had a
Really?
busy week. And apparently Psychonauts 2 is very, very good.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Psychonauts 1 was a great game.
I still haven't played either one. I want to get around to it.
How have you not played Psychonauts 1? That was a really good game. It was a really fun game.
Yeah, just
it was good and fun.
Something I never got around to.
Yeah, I have not played Psychonauts 2. I may do that. This week. Complete with the whir set. Oh yeah, that's the other thing about the last car thing. When you stop, like you stop and you're pulled over, you can't tell if your car is on or not because it's dead. But my brother noticed on the EV6, they've added a haptic on there so that the car very gently goes. You can just feel the very gentlest of vibration so that you know that the car is still on. Even though you're in park, you haven't turned the car off. You feel that very gentle, like almost barely perceptible. In fact, my brother mentioned it, and the salesperson was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even know about that. You're right. I can feel that it's on." He goes, "Yeah, there's no motors in this car. Like, there's nothing that should be spinning right now. They've added this." And I'm like, "It's called a haptic." And it's like, yeah, they've added a haptic to this car. So you know when your car has stopped and it's not turned off. The other cars you can't tell.
That's a good feature. That's a cool, thoughtful, user intuitive feature.
It is. I'm really surprised that that was the only car that was like that.
Chunabux says, yeah, I think Psychonauts 2. I know there was a VR thing for Psychonauts 2.
Oh, was there? Oh, I don't know if I'd want to play Psychonauts in a VR because that's already a crazy game.
It was like a thing made specifically for VR. It wasn't the games.
Oh, okay.
It was a separate thing. And then as your health,
Blood Reaper says he beat Hogwarts. What's your thoughts on Hogwarts? Because I've heard a lot of mixed feelings. Granted, there's a lot of, you have to tease out the politics in there, but Chris, Fighter Race, loves it.
Yeah.
Loves it.
I've heard, so okay, I think the best way to view Hogwarts, from my perspective, just looking at from the outside, it's a lot like Mad Max, the Mad Max open world game from several years ago.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
which was the same developer.
Oh, okay.
Same developer for both games.
Mm-hmm.
And in both instances, it feels like the games are like they're good open world games, right? It's like that's what they are. They're solid, good games. But because they're just kind of good games, they don't get good critical reviews because it's like, hey, this is kind of derivative. It's not really rewriting the box in any way. It's just kind of doing what you expect it to do. But a lot of players are like, hey, this does what I expect it to do. I get to smash cars. I get to run around Hogwarts. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And so in both instances, it feels like the split between critical consensus and player consensus is like players just wanted it to do the thing, and that it does. And critics are more like, well, it's just kind of an average game. It doesn't really do anything new.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Blood Reaper says it's a good game. Don't listen to people talking about JK and what she said. If you want to play it, I love it. Yeah, Yeah, and Chris's wife absolutely loves Harry Potter. So
Mm.
he plays it with her. She wants to be next to him while he's playing it, which
Hmm.
is a bonus for him because it kind of it makes the Xbox okay.
Yeah, that's
It gives
fun.
her a little something back, for him having an Xbox.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm tempted because I really do like Harry Potter and I really would love to play in that world, but at the same time, if it's only just a good game, eh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait to see what a few more people say. The
I
other game that
like everything else, because I know Rachel really likes Harry Potter too, and I
Mhm.
figure she'll probably really like that game. Like everything else, I'm just gonna wait for it to go on
Oh,
sale.
it's sale. Yeah,
Mhm,
if Chris's wife felt that way, then probably Rachel will really like it too.
mhm.
Chris also said this week that he picked up a Call of Duty.
Oh,
What's the
Warzone,
new Warzone? Yeah, that's it.
Warzone 2.
He loves it. He says it blows the doors off of um Battlefield 2042. Now it doesn't have the same co-op mode, which just makes me not want to go
Yeah,
to it.
Warzone is a battle royale.
Yeah. But he says it looks so good. He says
Mm.
it just puts DICE to shame for Battlefield.
Mm.
So, Harry Potter, AC Ray says Harry Potter is ASR community property. Frill, the original author. It is really it is at this point. All right. So, I haven't done any betters, but
Yeah, well, I can talk about what I've done. I've played some games,
hold on a
but
second. We haven't started the show.
what?
We haven't started the show.
That
This podcast
don't
discusses
bother. No, don't bother with that shit. We've already started it. There is no intro. We don't need the intro.
Yes, we
We've
do.
doing it for
Yes, we do. We're
47
doing it.
minutes.
We're doing it.
video games, modern culture, and technology. And these
Late
podcasters are
title
big fat
card for
potty mouths.
GameHounds.
If you're younger than
No.
18 or are easily offended, please
I
stop
mean,
this
intro
podcast
48
now.
minutes into the
Oh, and your
podcast.
mom says to take out the trash and do your homework.
Hello and welcome to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 673. We're recording this on Sunday, March 26, 2023. I'm Edie Sellers. With me is Nick DiNicola. I'm
But
sorry
you
for
already know that because you've probably been listening for the past 48 minutes already.
Yeah, we've been talking for 48 minutes. And I'm not going to go over all the details because I talked for most of those 48 minutes about the title of this. But what?
AC Race coming in with knives out.
AC Ray says, remember, Edie is going to edit this for audio podcast later. Oh, wait. Oh, fuck you. You're right. But yeah, the title of this podcast is I bought a Tesla. I bought a Tesla 5 minutes before we started the show, which was 48 minutes ago. So I literally just bought a Tesla and spent the whole weekend looking for cars and tried a bunch of different ones and came down to the fact that the Tesla is just maybe not the superior product in all ways, but it's just the better experience.
The easiest to buy.
It's the easiest to buy and it's the best network. The network will means that I could actually go on a road trip with this car without having to actually plan out where I'm going, whereas the all other ones without having like that massive amount of just Tesla stations everywhere. It's going to make a difference. So anyway, keeping that short because I've already talked about 40 minutes, but I don't want to do it again. How are you, Nick? How was things? How was your week off?
Good. The past 2 weeks, it's actually kind of good that we skipped a podcast last week because last week I barely played anything. All I did was watch The Last of Us.
Oh,
I spent all my
television
time
show.
watching the HBO Last of Us show.
I have a coworker that keeps coming in every Monday going, have you watched The Last of Us yet? Because she wants me to watch it. She's asked me already many times and I'm like, I'm going to wait till it's all out. And then she came in to let me know last week that the show's out. We got the finale. Now you have to watch it. And then every, like that was 2 weeks ago, like every Monday she comes back, goes, did you watch it? And I'm like, not yet. I'm like, I have to go back in on Monday. She's going to ask me. I'm like, not yet. I bought a Tesla.
Hmm.
So
Did you play the game?
Mhm.
Okay.
I didn't play part
What's
2. I played part 1.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is that I would say, thank you, Bitters. I would say The Last of Us is probably the actual first video game adaptation of anything, right?
Mhm.
All the other movies and all the TV shows and stuff based on games, they're always inspired by it. They always take it and go in a different direction, right?
Right. They don't respect the actual property story, and many times I think that
And I mean,
is a problem because
they
the stories
can't.
are good. If it wasn't a good story, you wouldn't be well, that's not true because there's
Sometimes they can't.
Tetris. The
Sonic the
Tetris movie.
Hedgehog is not going
So
to
right,
follow the
right.
story of Sonic.
Right. But like
Detective
Assassin's Creed, there's enough good story there. You do not need to be
Yes.
inspired by it. There's great stories there. Let's just make it better in other ways.
Yes. And so The Last of Us actually
Is the story.
is the story of the games, in some instances beat for beat, in some instances not. But that leads to an interesting moment, because like you can actually have the discussion of which did it better, the game or the show. Like you can, it's an
Oh.
interesting way to actually consider how the mechanics of play impact your perception of these characters, because now you're looking at these characters without that.
Interesting. I never really thought about that, but you're right. You're
Mhm.
absolutely right.
And
Because
so,
the only thing that I equate to something being close to that was um
so
dragons.
Dragon Age,
No.
Dungeons and Dragon,
No,
Dragon
big
Quest,
HBO show about the
Game of
dragon
Thrones.
game. No, yes, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. Yes, Game of Thrones. Same thing. But it was books, and
Yes.
inevitably
Yes.
it became, well, this is different than what the books were. And the thing is that there's not much of a really huge departure between books and movies because there's been enough movies written on books that it's not like something unique. In this case, it is something unique. This is the kind of the first time that you've had the game done as a movie.
Yeah. And so it's interesting to consider, in the game, in the show, there's not a whole lot of infected.
Mhm.
The infected don't show up a lot, not in the way that they do in like Walking Dead with zombies.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is because in the game, you kind of need the infected has these obstacles to work through. So they're
Right.
much more common. People are much more common, right? You kill triple digit people in the games. In the show,
Right, but
you
they
don't.
but because the gameplay is, well, it's kind of integral to the game, but on top of that is it creates non-narrative beats, long periods of non-narrative, and then it's the cutscenes that actually create the narrative.
Yes.
So this is the opposite. It's the movie is creating the narrative. That's the guts of the actual show is the story is what we would consider the cutscenes.
Yeah.
And then it's absent the beats that are caused by like the massive, and I say beats, I mean like big beats of gameplay. That's actual fighting.
Yeah. Um okay, hang on a second.
You get a cat in his headset. The cat turned off the headset. Uh-oh, you turned off your mic. There
The
you go.
battery was low, so I had
Oh.
to plug it in.
Oh.
But yeah, the show itself, very, very good. Like it's a well done version of that story. Pedro Pascal is a great Joel. He does really great things in that role. Bella Ramsey as Ellie is really good at kind of being both loudmouth, but also violent, but also kind of traumatized by that violence. She walks that fine line really well. And yeah, overall, it makes for a very what's interesting about it is how watchable it is. Like it moves at a pretty solid clip. Like it never really slows down. There is kind of an anthology, not anthology, but like episodic aspect to it where they're on the way, they encounter these people for 2 episodes. Then they go off and they encounter these other 2 people for 2 episodes.
Mhm.
But like it's so watchable. It's just like always compelling. It's never dull. It never feels like it's being stretched out. I do think the last episode feels a little rushed. I think the last episode
Really?
they rush through a lot of the end part really quick. But I was listening to Waypoint talk about the show, and they brought up an interesting point about the ending, in that, the ending of Last of Us is really infamous for having this conversation between 2 characters, one of which has lied to the other, and you're never quite sure if they realize the lie or not. And so it leaves off in a very interesting, conflicted place. When the game ended like that, with this really open to interpretation ending,
It did.
yeah, that was it, right?
Mhm.
There was
Right.
no announced sequel, and the sequel didn't come until 7 years later.
Right.
Whereas this is like, oh yeah, we've already announced season 2's on the way. And that creates a kind of different reaction to the ending, right? It's in the game, it was less of a cliffhanger and more, this is the ending. Like, what do you think? Whereas in the show, just by nature of already having the sequel content out there and like announced it, it doesn't quite, I feel like it doesn't quite have the same punch that it did, like the same
Mhm.
emotional impact, because the story's going to continue on. But yeah, it's still very well done.
Yeah. I'm no question. I am going to be watching this, and there's a couple of episodes I've heard about that I really, really, really want to see, because I don't know. I mean, I remember hearing about them. Like, this is a really unique episode that
Mhm.
deals with, like, not, it has nothing to do with the infection, nothing to do with the apocalypse. It has 100% to do with the people.
Mhm.
And I like that idea of it. It feels like this show was definitely held to the idea that it is following the story of the video game, but on top of that, it gave itself the luxury to be able to explore additional aspects of the story,
Yeah.
additional nuances, the different facets of this
Yeah. Well,
same
so
story. So it
because
kind of became its own thing,
yeah, like
but within that constraint of not just like completely rewriting the story and going in a different direction.
yeah, the games are so narrowly focused on like Ellie and Joel. Like it follows their
Right.
perspective 100%, whereas the
Right.
show has the luxury of being able to cut away and showing what other people are doing. And it takes advantage of that to kind of expand the world.
Yeah,
Is it?
by the way, I wanna say a
Oh,
shout out to Adrian. I think this is the first time I have ever seen Adrian Hernandez in the show, and, all right, I'm now ashamed. Like EC Wraith, I'm used to him shaming me.
you
Jaeger,
need
I am completely immune to his shame, but now we're starting to see people that I've never seen before,
you
and
need you need new sources of shame.
it's not that I need new sources of shame. It's just that when you're doing an audio show, you I don't know that I mean, I see numbers, but I don't really know that anybody's actually listening. That could be 100% bots for all I know. But the fact that there are actually people like Chunder, Ch- Chunder's been listening to this show for more than a decade, and I never even knew he was out there. And I think that it comes from the fact that we're small, and we've been small since we haven't been small since the beginning. We were pretty large in the beginning, but we're a very small show, and I don't really like do all of the things to like grow the podcast, because I don't want this to be my full-time job. Um, I'm going to take it back. I love for it to be a full-time job, but I got a full-time job that keeps me from doing the work to make it a full-time job.
Oh, look, you have a
But
full-time job that pays way more than this could ever possibly
no,
conceivably.
no. If we got huge on Twitch, no. I mean, if we could clear, $40, $50, $60,000 a month, $1 million a month, well, I would do that. I would quit my job, but I don't want to do the work that it would require, because that is a life eating thing. I see the people that have had to do that, and it's
We actually have a story about Twitch later on.
oh, good. But to see actual names like Adrian, hi, nice to finally meet you. I'm sorry. I guess I don't want to say I forgot, but I have not put as much weight to the podcast listeners as I should have. I always thought the podcast as an afterthought because I figured people were bored with me. I guess not. I am wrong.
No.
And I know I've said it tonight, and tonight I'm going to do it. Adrian, tonight I am going to do it. I am going to upload all of those, and it's going to be for you because you just reminded me that I'm being a dick, not giving you the importance that you should have. That you've been listening. You're there. I may not know your names. I may never know your names. You've been with me for some of people like Chunder, 10 years, and I never knew. And I have to respect that. So I'm sorry. You're right. And AC Wraith, I'm sorry that your shaming doesn't do what it used to do. Shames. Yeehaw, shame souls. As soon as you get started, no, I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm gonna go to bed at a reasonable hour tonight. But yeah, Adrian, you're getting your show, and it's not for you. It's for you and everybody else like you that I don't know your names and I've never met you yet, but you are part of my family. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've been a dick. I've been a dick. All right. So much for me owning me being a dick. So other
yeah,
than The Last of Us. So I'll be watching that. Not tonight though, because I'm going to be editing shows.
Yeah. What's interesting, I would actually say The Last of Us is like a slightly more optimistic take on this story than the game, because what the games did is it like the core couple of Ellie and Joel, his surrogate daughter, traveling through this apocalyptic wasteland. In the games, all the people they met were these dark reflections of them. They were either here's a character who has become a bitter, angry, lonely old man, and that's like a reflection of what Joel could become without Ellie. Then you meet this other couple who like the one of them fails to protect his younger brother, and it's like, oh, this is kind of a dark path that Joel and Ellie could end up. And they continue meeting people like that, where this is like they keep meeting negative potentials, like negative possible future paths for them to take. And that's kind of like, oh, we shouldn't become like them. And that kind of guides them along their own thematic path. That's like what guides Joel to make the decisions that he does, is seeing these dark, negative, possible futures. The game keeps some of those, but also kind of changes around some of them so that the people they meet along the way are less reflections of Joel and Ellie and more about little mini stories about protecting your loved ones, like finding a reason to live in this world and protecting it. And that becomes the theme that ties them together. Instead of just them being reflections of Joel and Ellie, they become little microcosm stories about finding a reason to live and protecting it. And that then kind of feeds into what Joel does in the end, which is like a slightly different way of interpreting those events. But yeah, it leads to in some ways, like it's still a very dark show, but it's like a slightly more optimistic take on all the dark things.
Yeah, I would see that would have to be a thing. If it was as dark as that, I mean, if it was as dark as that, it would be Walking Dead. Walking Dead was a pretty bleak show. And then they would be accused of just being another Walking Dead show based on a video game. They kind of had to take a different take. And honestly, I found Last of Us to be more hopeful than previous zombies shows, simply or zombie games, simply because you had this personal story, and you couldn't really let those people die. You couldn't let those people die every year. You
Hmm.
know, every
Yeah.
every in the
Oh, that's-
you would not be Last of Us if you let them die at the end or even in the middle. You just knew that they were going to make it. That's kind of the nature of the hero's
yeah.
story.
AC Wraith said that the Twitch still says Battlefield 2042 instead of talk shows.
I'll fix it. I hate
Um,
Twitch.
but other than that, I have played a lot of Atomic Heart,
Okay.
which is the game I've continued playing from last week.
Mhm.
It's the Russian BioShock game,
Right.
and I kind of love it. I
Really?
find it
You were liking it before. You've now warmed even farther?
yes. I think what's so interesting about that game, and here's the thing, the game has a lot of like jank to it.
Mhm.
And I think it feels really, really good to play. Like the combat just feels so smooth, so satisfying. And the way your powers and abilities interact just makes it really fun to play, like fun to dodge. A really good melee first person game that then someone becomes a shooter when the shit hits the fan and I need to like whip out my guns.
Mhm.
But it plays so well and it looks so good that I think it betrays the truth. It looks like a AAA game. And so you kind of bring those expectations into it, but it's not a AAA game. Like it's the first game from a new studio, a relatively small studio in Russia, which is not like really a central hub of game development.
Mhm.
And you kind of see that in some of the basic design choices where
Right.
um, you have a skill tree, and as you're going through the skill tree to level up some of your abilities, you get little descriptions of what this upgrade does. Some of those descriptions are kind of confusing, and you're not quite sure what it does. There's a whole Reddit thread about there's like a shield ability, and if you activate the shield and deactivate it, you can like cause an explosion. And there's a whole Reddit thread that I stumbled into about how do you actually activate this ability? Like the blurb says when you activate it and deactivate it, that should cause the explosion. But that doesn't actually happen. Like,
Mhm.
what do you have to do? Uh there's you have a glove that's kind of gives you some telekinesis where you can lift objects up. You can also throw objects. But for the longest time I didn't know how. Because if you tap the left bumper, that grabs an object. But if I tapped it again, I would just drop the object.
Mhm.
So it's like, how do I throw it? What do I do? The truth is that you have to tap LB to pick it up. Then you hold the button and you kind of charge up the throw. And when you release it, that's when you throw it. So
Oh.
it's not just hold. You have to first tap and then hold. Because if you just hold it, you'll grab the object, but you won't charge up the throw. So you have to tap and then hold.
Mhm.
And it's just little things like that that are not explained at all, that don't really the inventory. There's no text in your inventory. It's all just pictures.
Oh, so if
And
you
so
don't know the pictures, you can't figure out which is in your inventory?
yeah. And so it's a lot of okay, that looks like a pistol clip. That's pistol ammo. That looks like a machine gun ammo. That's a grenade? Is that a bomb? I don't know what it is. I've got
I
an
guess I'll
orb.
throw it and find out.
Yeah, I've got an orb with spikes on it. What the hell does this do? Uh,
Interesting. So it's almost more like real life of like, what is this? And you have to kind of look at it. Can you at least examine it to figure out what it is?
no. But
Okay.
if you when you're like at your store and you're looking through your inventory, there's no text that explains everything. When you're in game, if you hold the X button, that brings up like your radio menu. From there, when you select the item to use, it gives you a description of it.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't tell you in the inventory itself, but it tells you in like the quick select menu. And it's like, well, why? Why? That means if I get an item, I move it. so many times I've moved them into my inventory, left the menu, opened the quick menu, saw the description. No, I don't need that. Exit the quick menu, go back into the other menu, move the item out of my inventory. And it's just a lot of little janky things like that that kind of betray the fact that it's, it's a B game,
Mhm.
but it has the production values of a AAA game.
Hmm.
And I kind of love that because that gives it a really unique character. It also helps that, like I said, the combat feels great. The combat feels great. I'm
It
intrigued by
looks
the
great on the
story.
screen right now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this
And like
looks
graphically, it
awesome.
looks so good. And I feel like this is a little brief look at the future of video games in that, with Unreal Engine 5 and all these engines giving people the ability to make good looking games, you can get a lot of games like this that are like, oh, that looks so beautiful, but it's kind of janky because the people making it, like, it can't go through the same level of polish that a AAA game does.
Mhm.
And so you get like a game with the production values of a AAA game, but this design ethos that's kind of janky and amateurish. And it's a really fascinating thing. So that, coupled with the fact that it's a really interesting world, it's filled with really interesting puzzles, fun weapons, good combat, kind of makes me love it. It's a weird, freaky little game. Like it's not great, but it's so good and so interesting that I find myself really, really loving it.
Yeah, I'm very curious now. The more that you are liking it, because this is a game that honestly it reminds me of what's been promised about the day before. Like it looks great,
Mm.
but it might not be a real game. Or it might be a real game, but it may not be good. And the fact that the more you're going into it, the more you're liking it makes me like want to. Did you have to buy it or is this on
Game Pass.
Game? It is on Game Pass.
Yeah.
All right. I may be playing that. Not tonight, but I may be playing it this week. All right.
So yeah,
So
that's it.
yeah,
And then I think I did some more Horizon Call of the Mountain in VR, and that
mhm.
continues to be a like weird but interesting, fun experiment.
What's the longest you've been able to play it?
Probably like an hour.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Were
I
you sweating?
I was a little bit. Um, I really, really want to play Pistol Whip again because I went and saw John Wick on Thursday, and Pistol Whip is a very, very John Wick-esque game, in
Mhm.
that you've got the guns and you're like pew 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 pew, shooting everyone perfectly with headshots to a beat. It's like it captures that feeling.
Mhm.
So I I watched John Wick 3 like Wednesday night and then saw the fourth one in theaters Thursday night. And ever since then, I'm like, oh God, I need to shoot something. I need to
Yeah, but if you
so
want to shoot something, come on with me and we'll play Battlefield.
yeah, but that's not the same shooting. I want the style of shooting, not just uh pew pew. I want to like the cool pew pew.
Got it. Bang, motherfucker. Oh,
Mhm.
hey, Twitch has changed its rules. It's not. It's gotten. It actually clarified stuff. It backed off of all of the like don't swear
Oh, I thought that
stuff.
was YouTube.
Sorry, did I say Twitch? I meant YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, YouTube backed the heck off of that very quickly. Actually, what they did is they just actually they backed off. B, they actually explained. So yeah, no naughty words. But yeah, you don't have to have all these people making essentially just. I'm getting so tired of people using euphemisms for bad words, like and things that aren't bad words, like things like the R word or SA or child pictures,
Say.
or what is was it undeading oneself?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
unliving oneself. All of these euphemisms that are just getting ludicrous at this point. And I think it ended with RT Game who had almost his entire back catalog demonetized.
Mm.
And he just started using YouTube as a swear word. Like
Hmm.
every time he wanted to swear, every time he bleeped anything, he replaced it with YouTube.
That's actually a good gag.
Yeah, because he said, "I'm Irish. Irish can make any word a swear word," and he's right. He made YouTube a swear word. So, I wrote Call of the Mountain. That's not Horizon Call of the Mountain. That was Pistol Whip. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah. This is so not my game.
Oh
Never really
God.
wanted
See,
to do it.
looking at this, I'm just like, God, this looks so much fun. God,
Nope.
I just
Nope.
because I played this level. This is a hard level. I had to play this like 3-4 times to beat it, and by
Yeah.
the end, I was a little tired.
I bet. All right. So, other than that,
Anyways,
anything else?
that's all I played.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I played, we don't need to talk about Battlefield 2042. Played it with Gender. I'm not going to be playing it tonight, but I'll probably be playing it tomorrow night, assuming I get through all of the podcast editing that I'm going to be doing tonight, because it's going to be a lot. All right. Thank you. YouTubers can swear at the start of video games without getting, or videos again without getting demonetized. Yay. Unliving oneself. CP, that's the word I want. CP is what I'm looking for. CP, SA, R word. Chaos is there. Diablo 4 is pretty good. Yeah, I've heard some really good stuff about Diablo 4. I, of course, wasn't in the beta and I'm playing it, but I've heard not horrible things about it. I think that I would have been way more into Diablo, enthusiastic about being in the beta had it not been for that stupid game, Diablo Immortal. If it hadn't been for Diablo Immortal, it made me like, yeah, I'm not jumping into this until I know what's in there, because I don't trust you. You're the car dealer, and I am going to opt out and not and go to Tesla.
I feel like I just never quite got into Diablo. I played 3, but I never really, it never clicked for me like it seemed to with everybody else.
Mm-hmm. I guess I liked it. I didn't love it. Like Goalie just loved it. Oh my God, Goalie loved that game. And Cass says the story is way darker than 3's. At least the tone of it is. Yeah. All right. So, shall we hit news?
Yeah.
All right. Let's hit the news. And Nicola, and our first item is. I'll let you go, because I only have 3 really short items. So
okay, well then
you're lifting here, because I've got a Tesla.
Oh, good. Then I'll start with what is probably the biggest news of the week. At GDC, Epic gave their State of Unreal presentation, and with it, they announced a whole lot of new things. First of all, they announced that they are creating a new creator suite. They released Unreal for Fortnite, and with Unreal for Fortnite comes a whole lot of Creator Economy 2.0, which basically gives a lot of people the ability to make levels in Fortnite, basically turning it into a Roblox-esque situation where the game becomes a platform for people to create other types of games, basically using the Unreal Engine. And Epic says that it's going to give creators 40% of the revenue. Along with that, Epic has they own a whole bunch of not just Unreal, but a whole bunch of other asset marketplaces, things like Sketchfab, Quixel Bridge, or what's probably the most famous is ArtStation Marketplace, which is a place to buy art or hire people to do what's it called when you're planning stages, when you're drawing something to try to figure out what the look of it is, you hire an artist to do
mock-ups.
Yeah, okay, yeah, kind of like that. Mock-ups, pre-production stuff. They are consolidating all those into one new store called Fab. One new
Okay.
marketplace that will launch later this year. It's currently available, has an alpha, has a plugin for the Unreal Editor and Fortnite tools.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they say like, hey, we're gonna parties will split the revenue 88-12, and it's been a huge store that kind of like what I was talking about with Atomic Heart, where it would allow people to buy stuff that they can't do, buy animations, buy art assets, using the Unreal Engine to make things. And so all that together, it's creates like a really interesting approach for Epic to like they're trying to expand their reach. Like they have the engine, but they're trying to expand Fortnite into something that's much bigger than just the game.
Smart. Smart. You definitely want to be the thing that everybody uses, the platform, rather
Mhm.
than the actual game. And if they're already making a ton of money on the game, so if they can use the assets that they created for the game, or at least that are part of that game, and they can export that to a platform that others can use, that's just gravy.
Yeah.
That's almost free money,
And that
like
gets
finding
into
money on the street, baby.
a really good interview that Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic, has on The Verge.
Hmm.
The title is Tim Sweeney Explains How the Metaverse Might Actually Work. And it's really interesting to hear him talk about it because he's talking about it not from the bullshit crypto, we're trying to sell people on this, but
Yeah.
actually thinking through the mechanics of it and basically talking about um, like porting assets from one engine to another, talking about how fundamental APIs are like this is the APIs are the language that control physics work, control how an object interacts with the world in a video game. So if we can create an API that can get ported to different engines, then we can create an animation that then it works in different game engines, which is kind of what the metaverse is, right? Because the whole
Hmm.
point is that you buy one thing in one marketplace,
Right.
you can use it in another.
Right.
And it's interesting to hear from what he says. It's like, oh, this is still a decade thing away. Like it's not something happens anytime soon, but it's really interesting to listen to someone talk about like the actual mechanics of how this pie in the sky idea could work as opposed to just some investor trying to sell you on the idea. Like this is the actual nuts and bolts of what's required to do it. And so really informative, really insightful interview with him that's worth reading. But that also comes the whole, hey, Epic is launching a new store for digital assets where you can buy everything there. And this comes on the heels of a tiny little controversy. A game called Bleak Faith Forsaken, a Souls-like game, recently came out. And it's a beautiful looking game, but kind of similar to Atomic Heart, it's a janky game. Uh it's like, and the developer had said we bought some animation stuff from the Epic Store. One of the animations for one of the enemies, people did a side by side comparison and said, "Wait a minute, this looks like something from Elden Ring."
What's the name of it?
Bleak Faith, and there's like a tweet of someone comparing the animation from the enemy in Bleak Faith to the enemy in Elden Ring, and yeah, sure enough, it looks like it's a 1-to-1 comparison. So a lot of people got angry at the developer and saying, "Hey, you ripped off these animations." They quickly responded and said, "No, we didn't rip off the animations. We bought these animations from the Epic Store." Uh, so that leads people back to the Epic Store looking and, "Hey, wait a minute. You whoever the person is selling this ripped the assets from Elden Ring and put them up on the store for sale."
Oh.
Epic basically said, "Oops." They basically said, "We're not responsible."
Yeah.
we don't moderate what goes up on the Epic Store. So yeah, we're not going to do anything about it. And the creator who was selling like this particular animation pack that they bought is now gone from the store. You cannot buy it. But it does raise the question of like how many assets on that store are illegally ripped from other games.
Yeah.
And it's something that is kind of unresolved as Epic is making this big new push and consolidating the storefronts into one. This is a possible really disastrous wrinkle that yeah, I don't know if it's big enough to stop people because look, people need animations and having a store like this is actually a really good thing.
Yeah.
But how do you moderate that? How do you check it for copyright? And that's something Epic kind of has to
Yeah.
they
They
have to
have to
figure it
address
out.
this because, well, I mean, I guess they sort of don't. I mean, it kind of goes to that same, what was it, Digital Millennium Copyright House that has that part of it that says, hey, the platform is not responsible for things that are put on the
True.
platform.
But
But
why would
still,
I, as an indie developer, buy an animation that could possibly get
get
me into
me into
legal?
trouble.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Exactly. When you're talking about it's one thing when you're talking about like social media, but when you're talking about a marketplace that, the recipient might very well be putting themselves into legal jeopardy simply by using it when I can't trust what's on your site not to be stolen, then
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy of it. It's like going to Pirate Bay. I'm not going to go to Pirate Bay because it's all stolen. And if I use it in my business, I could take my business into the dumper because someone's going to sue the pants off me for it. So I'm not going to take, I mean, I might go to Pirate Bay and download something myself, but I would not like use Microsoft Office that I got off of Pirate
Yeah.
Bay for my
And
company.
you're not going to download something and then try to resell it.
No, exactly. No,
So
no.
so yeah, this is kind of like a little black cloud over their big announcement.
Mhm.
But what they showed off of the new Fortnite engine like has me really intrigued and kind of makes me want to download Fortnite just to see like what people could create in it.
I'm trying to see if I can find any videos of the new Forge. Was there a video that went with it?
I don't think there was one video. I'm sure there's a video of like an example of things.
Mhm.
But it's interesting because, Unreal kind of prides itself on realism, of having
Yeah.
like all these realistic environments, realistic animations.
Right.
And so you're basically taking cartoon Fortnite characters
Mhm.
and dropping them into like a photorealistic world. I think one of the things I saw is so Fortnite has undergone a lot of changes since it was initially released.
Right.
That first island that was like the Fortnite island is no longer like the Battle Royale island.
Mhm.
So naturally, that's what people made. So they went and recreated the original Fortnite Battle Royale island in the new Fortnite 2.0 creator,
Mhm.
which again, interesting. And the ways in which people can do things. I saw one person had created like an anime fight video where it's basically a battle royale with two people. They fly up in the air. They both charge up some sort of Dragon Ball Z Kamehameha attack and shoot it at each other. And the first person to hit the other wins.
Wow. That looks kind of fun.
Mm,
I'm trying to see if I can find that in there. Is that it?
no, that's not it. But that's the cool looking thing. So yeah, it kind of makes me want to download Fortnite just to see what the heck is going on with that game.
Not that curious. Just not. I mean, yeah, nobody has ever said that Fortnite doesn't look good. And it is a compelling thing to watch, but still. Uh until a
Oh yeah.
lawsuit makes them, they won't. That's the thing, is that if they have a lawsuit that they've
They
got
shouldn't wait for a lawsuit.
that's probably what well, maybe they're going to do that. I don't know. But they're 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 not going to change. They will probably not have to worry about a lawsuit because they've got it written into law that it's, they've got an out. There's an out that is written into law that will not relieve them of their liability. But as Nick said, it makes it less compelling to actually purchase stuff off of their store if they don't know that stuff on their store can be used without putting the purchaser in jeopardy of being sued. And that will absolutely, there's no protection for somebody downloading something stolen and then trying to make money off of it. There's no protection for that. That's flat out copyright violation.
So AC Wraith says something interesting. He said, I'd recreate some of my digital board games if I could get some money for it. I don't know the details, but from what I understand,
I would do Ookie Bookie Spelookie in this engine, no question.
I think you can.
Probably.
And I think you can get money from it.
Probably.
Because from what I could gather, like if you create your own island, right? You create your own island with your own rules, and it's kind of like your own game. And based on the number of people that play it and like its popularity levels, that could impact like your possible revenue. So it's not just people creating skins and weapons, but if you create like a game mode that blows up and becomes popular, I think you do get revenue from that. So like, yeah, if you create a game type in Fortnite and a lot of people play it, I think that they would pay you for that.
At the very least, you might end up with getting a job from somebody.
Maybe. So yeah, I think there is that, which again, like I said, it puts Epic and Fortnite in a very interesting position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chenderbox says a zillion clauses to protect themselves for sure. Yeah, but not their customers. No, but no customer is going to be using anything that could get themselves sued.
Yeah.
Or worse yet, everything that they've made now they don't make any money off of because it goes to some other person who actually was ripped off.
Yeah. And
nobody's going to buy stolen property. They think it's going to, you're going to lose that property and return to the original owner.
AC Wraith says, I'm wary of the Roblox comparison, which is a fair
That is
word,
very fair.
Because, yeah, Roblox is really exploitative. And Epic has talked about how, like, no, their revenue sharing model kind of is very different in a way that's not exploitative.
Mm-hmm.
But, we haven't seen this in action.
Yeah.
So we don't quite know what it's going to look like.
Yeah. So let's see. My first item is let's talk about the Activision Blizzard shit show. Because why not? That's fun.
I was gonna say some things about that too.
Perfect. Okay. So the first one is that and I've actually these are two of them together. So this is like two of the three stories I'm coming with. So the first one is that that the UK regulators had said that they were not okay with this merger, and that they believed that they actually laid out, I want to say 3 or 4 different conditions that they would seem acceptable if Sony did that would alleviate their fears of monopoly. It was things like they have to divest themselves of, they have to essentially sell Call of Duty. They would have to, what was it? Some of the other ones. There's some other things along those lines that, or spin off Call of Duty into their own completely unique company that is completely divested from Microsoft. There were a number of things that were pretty big asks, and not surprising asks, but big asks of Microsoft in order for the UK regulators to sign off on them purchasing Activision. Because of course Sony has made it all about how that was where they decided to the battlefield that they decided to stake their banner is that if Microsoft owns Activision, then Microsoft will have Call of Duty, and Call of Duty is such a seminal game in the gaming landscape that it would be anti-competitive because Microsoft could either make Call of Duty exclusive and cut Sony out of it completely, or the most recent accusation was that Sony said that Microsoft might very well release a Call of Duty, because Microsoft said, "Oh yeah, we'll make Call of Duty on multi-platform, non-exclusive, for 10 years." That wasn't enough for Sony, of course. Sony said, well, they might make it exclusive. They might even agree to make it exclusive in perpetuity. But if they do, then we'll probably release a less feature-filled or possibly even more buggy version of the game to Sony, so that the Microsoft version is what everybody wants to buy. So this week is the UK regulators have changed their tune. This week, the UK reversed its finding on the Activision Blizzard merger. They reversed their stance on a key question. They say that they no longer believe Microsoft would remove Call of Duty from Sony's PlayStation consoles. And the preliminary finding that they had was, of course, victory for Sony when they're like, oh, yes, this would be a problem. But now, and here's the interesting part. The quote comes from what was it? It's the name of the UK Competitive Markets Authority, the CMA. They had that original tentative ruling of like, this is a problem. Last week, they came back with this quote. Having considered the additional evidence provided, I'm assuming by Microsoft, we now provisionally concluded that the merger will not result in a substantial lessening of competition in console gaming services, because the cost to Microsoft of withholding Call of Duty from PlayStation would outweigh any gains from taking such action. So the CMA said they got this significant amount of evidence that came from Microsoft that says that, and I guess it was probably full of lots of numbers with lots of zeros at the end, that said, if we decided to make it a Microsoft console exclusive, this is how much money we would lose. And that's why, and this is the argument that Microsoft needed to make, is that it makes no financial decision. It makes no financial sense for us to keep it off of the consoles, because this is how much money we would actually lose by doing so. And of course, money talks, assuming these are true. Now, they did not release that information was not released to the public. A lot of people were asking for that evidence. We want to see the numbers of how much Sony makes, or Activision makes on Call of Duty console or Sony consoles.
And I wonder if that has to do with, and I don't remember the details. I couldn't find it because I don't know how to Google it. But a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, the CMA put out like some report that was like, hey, here's our numbers. And Microsoft responded by basically saying, no, you're comparing like lifetime sales versus a month's worth of profit or something like that. Like you're comparing apples to oranges, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if this is a response to that, of what Microsoft said, hey, instead of comparing 1 month's time frame, this is what lifetime looks like. So they could compare apples to apples. And this is the CMA's response to that.
Right. So yeah, they had said that the updated findings this new finding that they had, because of looking at this extra evidence, they said, quote, a significant that keeping Call of Duty off of PlayStation, looking at these new numbers, and I think that's exactly what Microsoft did, is they're like, okay, no, the numbers you have, that's not the right numbers. Let me show you the numbers that you should have been looking at. You were looking at the wrong things.
Oh, okay.
Here's the numbers. And they said, quote, that keeping Call of Duty off PlayStation would cause, quote, a significant net financial loss for the parties under all scenarios that we considered plausible.
Okay, so I found the article on The Verge. It was called Microsoft Isn't Happy with the UK Regulators' Math on its Activision Blizzard deal.
Yeah, this is the next step, is that they submitted the other math that they said is more realistic.
So I'm going to read from it. The CMA published a financial model that calculated Microsoft could turn a profit by withholding Call of Duty from PlayStation to draw former Sony fans to Xbox, basing its calculations on profits and losses from Xbox hardware, subscriptions, and games over a period of 5 years. Microsoft argues that the CMA's financial modeling is flawed. The CMA's model compares gains on a 5-year basis to losses on just a 1-year basis. And Microsoft says this massively skews the results. So yeah, if they're comparing the gains of 5 years to the loss of 1 year, then naturally the gains are going to
Look like they make
outweigh.
a ton of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, they added, while the CMA's original analysis indicated that the strategy would be profitable under most scenarios, new data, which provides better insight into the actual purchasing behavior of Call of Duty gamers, indicates this strategy would be significantly loss-making under any plausible scenario. On this basis, the updated analysis now shows that it would not be commercially beneficial to Microsoft to make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox following the deal, but that Microsoft will instead have the incentive to continue to make the games available on PlayStation.
At least for 10 years.
Right.
Because after that point, they're not going to do anything.
Now, this does not clear the way with the CMA. By the way, this is only one of the concerns that the CMA had. They actually had two separate concerns of this. One was obviously keeping it off of PlayStation's consoles. The other concern that they had was about cloud gaming, and that hasn't changed. But it will make now that this has been this argument has been put to bed, and the CMA is like, yeah, no. Okay, we're looking at the numbers now. You're right. There's no way that you won't put it on a PlayStation to clear. Okay, good. Now Sony is freed up to address the other concern. And that concern is the provisional view. This is their quote: provisional view that this raises concerns in the cloud gaming market is not affected by today's announcement. Our investigation remains on course for the completion by the end of April. And that was that the evidence that they saw indicates, quote, that Microsoft would find it commercially beneficial to make Activision games exclusive to its own cloud gaming services or only available to other services under materially worse conditions. Microsoft already accounts for an estimated 60 to 70% of the global gaming community services and also has other important strengths in cloud gaming from owning Xbox, the leading PC operating system, Windows, and a global cloud computing infrastructure, Azure and Xbox Cloud Gaming. So that's still an issue for them. It's not a sign off. You're good, stamp of approval, move along. Thank you for coming. Please drive through. That hasn't happened yet.
Not yet, but it really, last week Microsoft announced a lot more deals, specifically with game streaming services. One of they announced a deal with something called Boosteroid, which says it's the largest global independent cloud gaming provider.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that they're kind of painted into the corner to deal with these kind of like no-name cloud services in order to make this to go through, because there aren't any more cloud gaming services other than Xbox Gaming Cloud.
Here's the funny thing. There is. They also announced a deal with Ubitus, which is the cloud gaming service that streams a lot of Switch games. Like if I buy Resident Evil 7 on Switch, I'm not running that on the Switch hardware. I'm streaming that game to the Switch.
Okay.
And the company, was it Ubitus? Ubitus does it. Microsoft has a deal with them to stream a lot of games. You know who they haven't made a deal with? At least they haven't talked yet.
Sony?
Amazon Luna.
Oh.
Which, as of this week, has now expanded into UK, Canada, and Germany. And
they gotta. I mean, it was,
and I find it really interesting that Microsoft, going around, hey, we're making a deal with this person, we're making a deal with this person, we're making a deal with not them. They're already big. We don't want to help them, but we're gonna make a deal with that person. And I feel like
fuck you. You're cool. Yeah. Fuck you.
And it feels like a little bit of like looking behind the scenes of, let's make a deal with all the people that aren't really a competition to us.
Mhm.
But the service that might actually pose a significant
Yeah.
competition,
Yeah.
we're not going to make a deal with
That
them,
doesn't look good. Actually reinforces everything that the CMA has concerns
right?
about. Yeah.
Like, if
Yeah.
they're going to make a deal with anyone, it would be with Luna.
Yeah.
It would be with Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, if you look at it, the worst thing that ever happened to Luna was Stadia going under. Because if Stadia was still around, they would deal with Luna. They would absolutely deal with Luna because they
Oh,
would go
yeah.
1
Yeah.
to 3 and then leave 2 behind.
Yeah. No, we're not going to do Stadia. Stadia is the popular one.
Probably right. Stadia is actually competition. Let's go to Luna. Probably.
So, yeah, it's they're making enough of a show that it feels like they'll pass the regulations, the deal will go through, but it really does feel like you're making all these deals with things that don't really matter. And like, oh, the moment your 10-year contract is up, you're not letting those games be on anything other than Xbox streaming. Like,
Mhm.
we know this. You can see the future play out. In 10 years, it's like, yeah, we'll all forget about it now. Like, in 10 years, it'll just be accepted fact.
Right.
But like, no, all I guarantee you, the deal goes through, they make a 10-year deal with Sony. When that 10 years is up, Call of Duty is going to be exclusive to Xbox, like 100%. I do not foresee any possible future in which Call of Duty remains on PlayStation beyond the agreement that Xbox sets for this merger.
I don't know. And it's hard to say because that the numbers, the information, the added evidence that Microsoft provided to the CMA to show them that we'd actually lose a lot of money if we made this exclusive to Xbox as a game. Like not streaming. I wouldn't, if that's the case. I'm not saying that they didn't lie, but I would hope that the CMA would be able to spot a lie. If that is the case, I can't see that calculus changing too much in 10 years. And that assuming that what they gave is true and accurate, here's what that sort of says to me is that they will keep it on PlayStation if it makes financial sense and they realize that they're not going to lose money on PlayStation, or not going to lose money by removing it off of PlayStation. But if they do, they'll keep it on PlayStation. However, I think that this is a good indication of how much that Microsoft expects cloud gaming to be the future. Like in 10 years, the question is, in 10 years, will we be buying the game or will we be streaming the games? And I think that the fact that Microsoft was able to clearly show that owning the games is, people buying the games in 10 years is probably going to lose them money. That's why they'll always keep them on PlayStation. But the fact that they're not willing to make the obvious deal in order to take care of this other problem, and that's making a deal for cloud gaming with Luna, says to them that they think that in 10 years that, or even now, I don't know, they think in 10 years we're going to be streaming, not
You know what?
owning.
That's a good point. I feel like it's no secret that they want to be the Netflix of games. They want Game Pass to be the Netflix of games.
This is a confidence in them that they said in 10, that they know in 10
Yes.
years we're going to be the Netflix of
They
games.
want to
Period.
be the Netflix app on any Roku device. Whereas, like with PlayStation, sure, I could buy John Wick 3 on Blu-ray and watch it.
Mhm.
I could buy it off of any digital store, but I could also just stream it. And most people choose the streaming option. I'm a weird little freak in that I bought the HD, the 4K Blu-ray and like watched it on the PlayStation.
Mhm.
But like, Yeah, most people.
D-
Oh,
We
I
don't we
could.
don't buy movies anymore. We stream them. That's what they
Yeah,
see is going to be in 10 years
you know what? I
for
think you're right
games.
about that because their bet is that in 10 years it won't matter if the game's on sale on PlayStation. You'll just play it streaming anyway.
Exactly. And that's where
Mm,
this whole Activision owning Call of Duty, owning everything else, that's where this whole Activision actually does make financial sense. Other than, I mean, it sort of doesn't be well, it does because it makes sense that Activision is selling. That's the thing. Activision has to sell. Bobby Kotick has to sell that game. Oh my god, they have to sell that company. They have to sell it like now. For obvious other reasons. But this makes sense of why Microsoft is willing to spend so much money on it and to keep everybody else out is because they know at least they're so certain. How many billions was it? 60 billion?
yeah, pretty much. I
Yeah.
think it was like
They're $60 billion absolutely certain that in 10 years we're not going to be buying games.
Yeah. You don't drop that kind of money unless like you see it has a significant investment in something in the future. That's not just buying game studios. That's like he had to go to the bosses of Microsoft, to his bosses in Microsoft to get it approved. And to do that, I'm sure he had to make an argument as to why this money wasn't just going to support Xbox, but support all of Microsoft as a company.
Right. And it's the reason why out of the gate, when Sony was like, oh my God, you're going to make the game exclusive. And Microsoft's like, no, we're not. I mean, from the beginning, they were like, no, we're not. It's like, we'll give you a 10-year deal. No, you're really going to make it exclusive. It's like, no, we're not. And here's the proof. We'll lose money if we do that. Well, you're going to give us a lesser experience. Like, no, we're not. Here's the proof. It's like, well, what about cloud gaming? Oh, well, yeah, maybe we need to talk about that.
That we're totally gonna do.
I don't know about that. Yeah, that's why they haven't. Microsoft hasn't fought to keep it exclusive, and you'd think that they would.
Hmm.
So it's like you know if you want to know where something's broken, you just keep poking at places until it hurts, until it screams. And that's where it is. That's where it's screaming. That was the scream, is the fact that they are not dealing with Luna. That's somebody poking them going, oh, that's what you care about. And then the whole thing becomes clear. So yeah. And then the other half of the week in Sony Activision Blizzard show, because we've only gotten one of those. And this is more, that's the first one, this one that we just talked about, that's more like strategy, like, all right, let's add some like logic to it. Then there's the actual shit show part of it. This is the shit show part of it. Last week, we had a senator, U.S. senator, lodge their opinion or thoughts on the whole thing. The senator blasted Sony for having its monopoly on Japanese games. So, Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell of the state of Washington, home of Everett and Redmond and Seattle and Microsoft, she did raise the specter of Sony's monopoly on quote unquote the high-end game market. And went as far as to call on U.S. trade representatives to discuss the issue with Japanese delegates as part of an ongoing digital trade negotiation.
I saw the numbers on this, and like she said, why is it that Sony has like a 98%
high-end game market, yet
on the
Japan's
high-end
government
game
has
market?
allowed Sony to engage in blatant anti-competitive conduct through exclusive deals and payments to game publishers, establishing games that are among the most popular in Japan.
And it's like, to get that number, they discounted Nintendo. They discounted everyone except Sony and Microsoft.
Right.
Like if you discount all competition other than Sony and Microsoft, Sony has 98% of the market because Microsoft has never
Has
been able to kind of
2%
penetrate the
of the market.
Japanese market.
Right.
Which
Um,
is like in the comments and other places, like I've seen people joke that, well, isn't this like true capitalism? That Microsoft has tried again and again to get into that market and
can't crack it.
failed. Isn't that like the market speaking?
Mm-hmm. It's not that see, that's the market, how the market works. In the case of, in order to make this equivalent, Sony would have to essentially buy all consumers and then prevent them from actually having access to Xbox games. It's not that they're not getting the access. They have all the access to the world, the Xbox games they want. Clearly, they don't want them. They don't like them. They don't like, Western games as much as they like Japanese games. And Sony makes very good Japanese games.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. She accusing, and I'm reading this out of Kotaku, accusing Japan's Federal Trade Commission of failing to investigate the quote unquote exclusionary conduct. She then asked U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai, quote, "What do you think we can do to address these issues and create a level playing field?" So Tai said in response that they're currently in discussions between the U.S. and Japanese governments over the digital economy, quote, and she said, "This is new for me, but let me take this back, and I'm happy to follow up with you and your team on this." So, yeah, that was a little bit of a clearly, I mean, this is the state senator of Washington, who I would gather probably has met and received donations from at least one Microsoft representative. So, yeah, that was a classic case of money speaking, and unfortunately speaking very stupidly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the shit show part of the Sony shit show, Microsoft Activision shit show. All right, so moving right along. And by the way, anytime anybody says to you, "Let me get back," especially somebody from the government, I've never heard of this, but let me get back to you and your team. That's not a good sign. That's what I said to the Hyundai guy who tried to overcharge me. Let's just say that. Well,
Let me
that's a
get
very
back.
new number to me. Let me get back to you on that. As she goes over to Tesla and buys a Tesla. Sorry.
It's the polite business email way of saying fuck off.
Oh yeah. I was in a what was it? I was in a Vituity, my old company. I had lots of like digital social events, and one of them was bingo with this really hilarious drag queen. And she did virtual, we did virtual Zoom bingo, and she was so funny. But one of the things that she like did a whole riff on was email speak and what it really means.
Mm-hmm.
Like the as I stated in my previous emails, which means read, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And another one is, let me get back to you on that one, was like, yeah, no. Fuck off.
We're never gonna speak again.
We're not. Yeah. You're an idiot, but and no, you're an idiot. So anyway, your next one item.
Twitch
Mhm.
laid off 400 people, which according to some speculation on Twitter that I saw is about 20% of the company.
I mean, 400 people is a big chunk of change for Twitch.
This
I mean,
comes
assuming we're not talking about their creators. Yeah, that's a
Yes.
big chunk of change.
This is employees, not content affiliates.
Creators. Yeah.
This comes after the CEO stepped down like a couple weeks ago. He says to
Mhm.
spend time with my family because I just had a kid, which makes sense, right? It makes perfect sense. It also comes on the heels of Twitch having a really hard couple years. And there's a really good article on the Washington Post, which, at least as of now, is free. It's not behind a paywall because I'm looking at it right now. Called How Twitch Lost Its Way.
Oh, really?
And it's a really deep dive into like how Twitch kind of bungled the past couple years to create a really problematic situation for itself. And a lot of that had to do with, let me find her name.
Let's see. It's called. You said it was called "How Twitch Has Lost Its Way."
Yeah. A lot of it comes from whereas a woman came in to become like VP of content creators. And it sounded like she was very much against content creators. Constance Knight, who served as the VP of Global Creators. She was a former YouTube executive who joined Twitch in July 2021 and is now no longer at the company because she resigned at some point. But people say that under her, she was broadly unsympathetic to the needs of content creators. And where was it? Specifically, okay, so burnout. Burnout is a pervasive issue among Twitch streamers, which we all know. And in a January 2022 email, Constance Knight wrote that burnout was not a valid reason for creators to not meet contractual obligations. So previously, Twitch had kind of waived some monetary penalties if the content creators could not meet contractual obligations for streaming due to burnout. And so, yeah, while some Twitch employees had previously opted to not penalize streamers for burnout-borne breaches, Knight said that she was putting an end to that practice. And it's just, there's a lot of interviews with people broadly speaking about how she didn't have a good direction. She didn't have a good, she wasn't good at working with people. People left over her. One manager went above her to her boss and said, "Hey, I want my team transferred out from under her because no one likes working with her." She, by all accounts, a terrible manager, a terrible person to work with. And so a lot of Twitch's problems, I think, stemmed from her being in a position of leadership at a turning point in the company and turning it in the wrong direction. She's no longer at the company, which is good, but Twitch has also doubled down on a lot of the problematic stuff, such as an emphasis on advertising, but at the same time, reducing the revenue split that content creators get from ads. So they want more ads, but they're also not good at targeting ads, which means for advertisers, it's less in their interest to advertise on Twitch than is on something like YouTube. So an emphasis on ads, but they don't have the infrastructure to support really targeted ads. And at the same time, they're not really giving streamers an incentive to run ads because they reduce the amount of revenue they can get. So it's all sorts of stuff like that. And there's really no indication from anyone at Twitch of like a positive change, right? It's
Yeah,
all
like
just
it was clearly wasn't just her. It was, but she was,
she was a bad situation, but Twitch has since like doubled down on all the bad decisions that even came from her and from before her.
and I'm sticking her on there because somebody this evil really needs to be, everybody needs to know what she looks like, just so that if you ever see him or somewhere else. So this is the creator.
You don't need to know what she looks like. Oh, if you do, like that, she sounds like a terrible person to work with.
She sounds like a terrible person to work for.
Wherever
And you know what?
ends up,
Actually,
I
this
would
is
eye it suspiciously.
Yeah, exactly. I would if yeah, absolutely. But here's what I find very interesting because I'm looking back into her history. Is that she was at Instagram where she had a video creation for short form content. She worked for YouTube for more than 9 years as a head of content programs and partnership for creative communities. So she's worked with creator communities for YouTube for 9 years. This is obviously interesting for Twitch. And I'm fascinated to read more about that story, of the horror stories of what's going on at Twitch. But it's also very interesting that she spent 9 years doing that job at YouTube. That's also, like, doesn't surprise me, given what has been happening at YouTube from YouTube to their creators. It's all like, it sometimes seems like we're making the same arguments about Twitch and
Mhm.
about YouTube supporting their creators. And all of a
Well,
sudden now we're having like this through line of a single person who spent 9 years doing the community at YouTube and then moves over to Twitch. And now we're finding out she is a terrible person. And from their reports, from their some charges in that Washington Post article, doesn't really like creators,
yeah, really not.
right?
And it's interesting that now
Or doesn't value them, at least,
now Twitch is losing people to YouTube.
right?
Once she came onto Twitch, that started like a slow exodus of people going to YouTube.
Right. And probably and people left YouTube. What year did Twitch start to really take off?
I know it had a big boom during the pandemic for obvious reasons.
Right. But I'm talking about, like, when did Twitch go from being kind of like this, like, gamers, like essentially you and me just kind of dorking around on here. And it started to actually start to really grow the number of because that happened well before the pandemic. Twitch was in and established and robust prior to the pandemic, that then it really took off.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it was because there was a whole time where people were like, "Oh, I'm no longer doing YouTube. I'm going to," because YouTube videos, A, they take a lot of work. B, they're really slow to get out. C, YouTube really doesn't support the community. I'm going to Twitch. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, we love Twitch. It's fantastic. We can do live. We're much more engaged with our people. We like the format. And the Twitch treats us so much better than YouTube." And then she moves over to Twitch, and now Twitch starts to degrade its community, its support of its creators. And now people are leaving Twitch to go back to YouTube, where she used to be, because now it's actually worse. I'm wondering, it's like, is she kind of the, like, is she the curse of content creators, platform creator community?
Yeah.
Like, is she toxic? I mean, it sounds, the way that the article makes it sounds like she's fairly toxic to work for and fairly toxic to
Oh
Twitch.
yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
wondering if she's like the typhoid Mary of creators just abandoning a platform.
It could be. I'm really
She just
curious
spread,
now.
and clearly she's spreading. It's spreading. She changed YouTube. And then YouTube is taking a long time to actually get better. And then now you see this article about how she came in and she started essentially being a dick to the creators. And now, even though she's left, she's kind of left this legacy. The typhoid has stayed. The whole atmosphere, the environment, the policies that she put in place that were incredibly hostile to creators seem to be remaining after she left. So it wasn't just her, but she started something. Yeah. Creators are the heart and soul of Twitch, and we continue to see more people finding their community on Twitch. Now is the perfect time to add more support for global creators to our internal team. Constance
Yeah,
is
it
an
does not
experienced,
sound like that.
passionate leader who brings a wealth of knowledge from across the streaming industry. Her perspective will be invaluable in helping Twitch and its creators grow and thrive. Oh, how that did not age well. Since when did this come out? 2021. Wow. She wasn't even there a year. No. She was there 2 years. 2 years. 2 years. Wow.
Yeah, it looks like she left around September 2022.
So July. Oh God. So she barely made it a year.
Okay. This article from Game Rant, I guess she left at the same day that Twitch announced it would change the revenue split from 70-30 to 50-50.
Oh, that day.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, Chenderbox says, speaking of ads, the new format of a vertical banner to the left of the stream is a lot less intrusive than the video ads where you lose the stream for 2 seconds. Yeah, I've heard that they were changing that. I was wondering, how that affected you. Gender, I believe you shouldn't even be getting ads at this point because you, I believe, are supporting us. You subscribe to us through your Amazon Prime. By the way, if any of you have Amazon Prime and you have not already sponsored our channel, another channel, might I recommend you sponsor our channel, subscribe to our channel. You get one free one through Amazon Prime. So if you haven't used it already, please use it on us. We could use it. It would be nice. It makes us feel good and actually makes us a little tiny bit of money, which actually helps pay for all that. I did not buy any Teslas with the proceeds of this show. I can 100% attest to the fact not a penny that you gave us was spent on that Tesla. None of it. Genderbox says, I was addicted to watching Twitch once, 8 hours a day. Wow. Stopped watching any for 12 months. And then you guys started on Twitch. Thanks for re-enabling my addiction. Totally worth it. First taste is free. There we go. September 24th, 2022. Yep. There it is. He says there is a small window when it expires between months. Yeah. So, that's I'm not doxing her. This is not doxing, but I am curious to know where she went. From Twitch.
Yeah. I've been looking and I cannot find anything as of yet.
Not on LinkedIn?
No.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, normally that's a pretty good source for place. What's her name? Constance Knight. Well, that's where she's where she went. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, nothing. I can't find her on LinkedIn. I don't think she's there. And all the articles about her are about how she's leaving Twitch. So no articles about being hired someplace else.
How does she not have
a Wikipedia page? Right? That's what I thought.
How does she not have a LinkedIn page? Everybody's got a LinkedIn page. That strikes me as very strange. That a executive in tech, I mean, I'm really looking here, that an executive in tech wouldn't have a LinkedIn page. That's weird. That's very weird. Okay, let's see, companies. I'm looking. I'm gonna hunt that down. That to me is so suspicious that it now makes me want to see why. Because I see other people that had posts on LinkedIn linking to pictures of her, like speaking at, different organizations but nothing where it's her LinkedIn page. Everybody in tech has a LinkedIn page. It may not always be full of truth, but it's at least a LinkedIn page. Everybody does. Makes me wonder who are you hiding from? It just makes me suspicious. Say, it's a little strikes me strange. AC Ray says, I used to talk to more creators in Twitch, but I've been keeping to myself lately. Well, you talk to us, and that's what's important.
Okay, you talk the important ones.
Yep. All right. So next item is, I'm going to let you do the next item to start because I need to get some water.
Okay.
Because I've been talking so much about how I just bought a Tesla.
I saw where you were going. You didn't even try to hide it. It was just like flashing lights.
Yeah, I know. If you bought one, you'd feel the same way. If you buy a car and you don't feel the same way, then you bought the wrong car.
I must have bought the wrong car. I didn't feel
And
that way.
but I promise you this, that this is, you'd said that you were concerned that this would become like my personality. It's not. It's
Yeah.
not. It's just yeah. No, this is gonna be the last time I mention that I bought a Tesla. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The last time that you mentioned
It
you
is.
bought a Tesla. Yeah. No, I'm never gonna
No,
mention the
serious.
Tesla again.
I'm not gonna say that's the end of it. Okay.
I
I'll be
know. I'm just teasing you.
I know. I'll be right back.
Anyways, other things. Well, it's kind of speaking of Microsoft and companies that they own. He just put a banner under the screen that says Edie just bought a Tesla. Okay, well we'll keep that going. Anyways, speaking of Microsoft and companies they own, one of those companies, Bethesda, owns the studio Arcane, which is known for making immersive sims like Dishonored, Deathloop, and Prey. They have a new game coming out called Redfall, which is like, we haven't seen a whole lot about it. And it's unclear if it's like a Left 4 Dead style game or if it's a more of a sim open world game like their previous ones. But one of the recent controversies to come out is that the game, it will support up to 4-player co-op, but it also has, excuse me, it also has a single player mode. Unfortunately, you need to be online to play single player. They have said that that online requirement is for like monitoring, that basically they want to monitor how players behave, and so if they see any pain points they could change it. One of the things, that examples they gave was, if we see a lot of players are falling off of a ladder, we want to be able to know that so that we could go in and change that ladder, which you don't really need an online requirement for. Like, a lot of games just say, hey, we will collect player data. Are you okay with this? Yes, no. A lot of games already have that warning at the start of them, but they also don't need online requirements. And so the developer has since said that they are looking into removing the always online requirement for solo players.
Yeah.
They haven't actually promised to take it out. They just said they're looking into it.
Yeah, they took a lot of heat for that one, about the always online. So
Because
I
there's no
don't know if
good
this is
reason
like a
for it.
blatant lie of like, we're looking into it, and then, as it gets closer, it's like, yeah, we really couldn't do it. We really tried. Sorry, but we really, really tried to get those audio podcasts up. I swear to God, but it's just been so difficult. But I promise I'm going to be doing it tonight. And then like coming back the next week going, well, I was going to do it, but then I bought a Tesla. So
Okay, Chunderbox has you left. He's like, okay, where's the betting poll? Will she or won't she?
look, it was just an example. I'm not saying I bought a Tesla. I'm saying it's kind of sort of like if somebody had said that. That's just all I'm saying.
Oh yes.
That wasn't
yes.
me saying it. But it is a little bit like that, where it's like you promise. She's like, oh yeah, I see. I register your complaints. Let me get back to you with my team. We will look into it and we will get
Yes.
back to you. And then of course they're going to come back and go, yeah, we really did look into it, but we just did not find it feasible and decided to go into a different direction.
And it feels egregious because the last game, Deathloop, which had a really, really hyped up online component where other players could invade your game, has an offline mode.
Yeah.
And so they previously made a game with a huge online component with the option to play offline. And so to have that not be here
Mhm.
feels like a weird switch.
Mhm. And Yeah, I don't know if they're being disingenuous. I hope
Yeah,
that they're
neither do I.
not. And the only way to know if they're not being disingenuous is if they actually do remove it. But
Yeah.
every people are right. It shouldn't have an always on live required connection. It just shouldn't. And
If there's a single player mode,
right,
then
it
there
shouldn't.
should be some way
It
to
shouldn't.
let that.
But I will say this. We talk about how that, always online modes, being online is shouldn't be required for single player games. Can't tell you how many single player games I have not been able to play because they've lost some kind of connectivity to either the server or, like my internet was down and I could not play my game and they were single player games. Assassin's Creed is a very good example of that. You might be able to play for, a little while, but then your license can't be verified. And that's not I don't
Really? I don't
yeah.
think I've
Yeah, I get
ever
that notification a lot, like, we can't verify your license.
huh. I guess
Now, it doesn't
I
happen
have
automatically, it's not always online,
yeah,
but
I
it
have
has
not
to.
I've not played the recent Assassin's Creed games, like the past 2, but I hadn't seen that happen
But happened to me in
all
Valhalla
the
a
way
couple
up
of times.
to
Couple of
Odyssey.
times. No, it happened to me on Valhalla a couple of
Mm,
times. I know I'm not the only one that gets these your license can't be verified, which
yeah.
means that it's calling in, which
Yeah.
means that I need a connection. So we make a big deal about like, oh, we need to have an online connection. Dude, you pretty much have to have an online connection. They may not say you have to have an online connection because they're splitting hairs. They're like, oh, you don't have to have a online connection always online, but you have to have it at some point pretty frequently because if you don't, then you get booted from the game because of the license. Not for the gameplay, but because of the license.
Mhm.
So I think it's kind of splitting hairs, and I think that when we make way more bigger deal than than there should be.
Well,
If we're going to be making a big deal, and we should be making a big deal, we need to be making a big deal more than just like the occasional games that gets called out on this, like Redfall. It needs to
oh,
be made
yeah.
about all the games that are doing it, and for all the reasons,
Well,
like
especially the ones
verification of your license.
yeah, especially ones like Ubisoft that seem to be doing it sneakily.
Mm-hmm. AC Ray, you are learning, like, I mean, we brought up two different examples where your shame, I am inured. It doesn't have the same effect.
Else I can help with?
Hey, Siri,
Oh, no.
Good afternoon.
did you know I bought a Tesla? She's not even responding. Hey, Siri, did you know I bought a Tesla?
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
Hmm.
No.
That's such a pregnant
Hmm.
hmm. I don't have an answer for that.
Is this why people hate Tesla owners?
Yeah,
It is that.
I can see why.
Hmm.
The Chunderbox says Sony got roasted a few years ago when they went down over Christmas when that happened, and you could play your online games. I assume he says couldn't.
You couldn't
I
play your
remember
online.
that.
You couldn't play your single player games because like they's like, oh, we don't new car. It's Don Matrick was like, oh, you have to have an online, and everyone's like, fuck you, Don. And then like he's gone, and now it's like, oh, we love you so much. Can't having a Phil, we love you so much. You're such a gamer. It's like, hell yeah, you don't have to have an online connection. And then the internet goes all, it's like all of a sudden you can't play your games. I'm really
See,
surprised that nobody's like raging
for-
in the streets about stuff like this.
For Game Pass, I get it. Right? For Game Pass games, it makes sense because the whole point is you need the subscription to do it. So if they can't
Right.
verify you have a subscription,
Right.
like Atomic Heart, it's a single player game. If the Xbox lost an internet connection, it
That
wouldn't
makes
let
total
me play
sense.
it. But if I bought it on PlayStation and it lost internet connection, I would be able to play it.
Right.
Like that makes sense.
Or
But
if
yeah,
you bought it on Xbox, you should be able to play it
oh yes,
without a
yeah.
connection. But that's the
Yes.
thing, is that it's a red herring. It's a red herring for Redfall. It's all a red herring all games require you, whether you're single
see,
player or not,
they
all
don't.
games require you to have a connection so that
No,
you can
like
verify that
some of
freaking
them,
license.
some of them truly don't. And those are the games that we should be celebrating.
Do we know who they are? No.
Yeah, Elden Ring doesn't. If you
It-
have, if all the From Software games, if you have an online connection that allows you to participate in the multiplayer modes, but there is an explicit offline mode. You could turn off all the online stuff.
Have you done it?
No, because I want the online component.
Try it.
Oh, I totally could. I know I can.
I think this is like, there is a free lunch. Would you like to buy a bridge? I promise I won't in your mouth.
No, I've done
This
this
is
before.
another one of those promises. Oh yeah. No, you don't need a connection to play our game.
No, I've seen it happen in the menus. It will go in a menu, I'll hit continue, and it'll like try to ping the server, and it'll say, "We cannot find a connection. We'll start in offline mode." And I'll
Right.
say
But how
yes,
long can you play that offline mode?
for as long as it lasts.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because that's the thing, is
Yes,
that you
I'm
can.
sure.
It's not a continuous thing. Like you could play it in an offline mode, but will you? First off, will you be able to save your gameplay? No, you cannot save your gameplay.
That's not true. It saves to the hard drive.
Sure.
Most games save to the hard drive. They back up in the
They
cloud.
say that. That's what I'm saying, is that they're lying.
Okay, you're
They
getting
say
to
that you see, oh, it says online mode. It says I can play. It was like, if it says it's to play, but is that true? Verify. I think that if you played offline mode, there would be some whammy. Either 45 minutes in, you would get a little notification like, hey, we can't verify your license. Like the game may not require it, but Microsoft requires it. Or Sony or whoever you play with. Maybe not Sony, but somebody's going to require that you, especially Xbox. I think I can get it more often on Xbox than anything else, but somebody's going to send you a love note at some point saying, hey, we can't verify your license. Now, it may not be the game, but it might be Sony. Like there's no, I honestly don't think there's no complete offline game experience where you can save and play the game and play it for as long as you want without having some way to verify with it. Like, and I should say maybe a disc. Disc is one thing. Like if you have a disc, you clearly have the disc. But if you're playing a game that you've downloaded and it needs to know that you haven't hacked that game, it's not a stolen copy, it's gonna want to know you're playing a legitimate copy. It's going to be phone and home at some point.
I'll have to try that out.
Yeah. See how long you can play, or see if there's any other whammy along the way that says, hey, you need to get on the internet for a second so we can check stuff. Or you need to get on the internet to save, or you can play, but your gameplay won't be saved so that you can, when you go back on, that it will upload your gameplay back to the, what you've done, like your 20 levels that you just did offline. You'll have to play this again, but you have to do it on online mode. So I think there's something there. Next item.
Speaking of Ubisoft, Ubisoft has announced and detailed a new AI script writing tool.
I saw that. I'm
called
fascinated.
Ghostwriter. This is the kind of thing that on the surface sounds okay, but other people have come up with criticisms that are really legitimate. Basically, what Ghostwriter does is it automatically writes what I think are called, if I remember correctly, barks, like a dog, woof woof. And what barks are specifically is the incidental dialogue that you hear from NPCs in an open world game as you're walking by, right? If I'm in a crowd of people and I'm walking through them and I hear someone be like,
I used to be an adventurer until I got an arrow in the knee.
Yeah, right? Like, oh man, my dog puked on the carpet this morning and I had to clean it. Oh yeah, that's blah blah blah. And just that sort of incidental crowd dialogue.
What is the word? And maybe somebody might know in the chat room if you were in theater at all. There was a word, and I can't. It's been so long since I've used in theater that when you are supposed to be in a crowd on the theater, on stage, there is a word that you say.
Oh, banana.
It's not banana.
It's not? I thought it was banana.
There's another word that if you say it, like if a whole crowd of people all say it, it sounds like just random chatter. I don't want to say it's like aardvark, but if you say it, if everybody just repeats, aardvark, 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 that it will actually sound like legitimately sound like crowd chatter, like no other word does. And it's like one of those stage techniques. Can't
Interesting.
remember what it is. Maybe it was artichoke. No, artichoke, 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 artichoke. Something like that. Somebody in the chat room might know that. You
well,
theater geeks.
Anyways,
No,
so the
nobody's.
White Ghostwriter. What?
Oh, you're such a theater geek. Only the theater geeks in this room, and we're laughing our ass off about that one.
Macbeth?
Yeah.
Macbeth?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be a bad. I can tell you right now, that's definitely not the word that you say on stage.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's
in a theater.
It's gonna be like it sounds like.
No, see, you know the joke, right? Or not the joke, but the joke that he made. Theater people you don't say Macbeth in the theater. You don't say Macbeth when you're in a theater because it's a well-known superstition that will cause the play a disaster or the play to fail.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
disaster. So a disaster
so
will happen. It's a superstition. Oh God.
That's a real deep cut theater geek joke.
Yeah, that's what made me laugh. That was a
Oh.
deep cut theater geek joke.
I thought it was like it sounds like something else if you say it over and over again.
No.
Mm.
Macbeth and saying Macbeth, it's a real no. You just don't. It's like telling a baseball player good luck. No, it's like that's it. Sorry, my bad. That's the other thing. You don't wish an actor good luck. But when they're about to go on stage, you say break a leg. That's where the phrase break a leg comes from. Wishing someone good luck on a theater, before they're being about to go on stage is a superstition that like you're cursing them. It's a bad thing. Something bad's going to happen if you wish somebody good luck.
Theater geeks are just as superstitious as sports players.
Fuck yes. So that's where the phrase, hey, go out there and break a leg. You wish them bad luck. Golly.
Thank you, Goalie.
He said, you don't say Nick on a podcast for the same reason.
Suddenly we lose power.
Yeah. Oh, anyway. So you were so the AI script writing for incidental ambient conversation of NPCs in games.
The way it works is a writer inputs the situation and then the AI tool suggests lines.
Right.
So in the example Ubisoft gave, the writer will say like kidnapping. An NPC has been kidnapped. And one of the lines that it comes up with is, there's no way I'm getting out of this.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's simple. And like, the thing is, when you hear this, it sounds like a pretty good tool for writing a bunch of dialogue that the point of it is like not to be intrusive. Like, you're going to have a writer spend all this time writing dialogue that most players are not going to hear because they're not supposed to hear it. Like, it's not the focus of anything. And it's like, okay, that's going to save people time, right? It really would. The problem that comes up that people have said is like, well, that incidental dialogue is a really good stepping stone in terms of like game writing progression of careers. So what you're doing is you're taking out a place where people could, game writers could, like an internship, basically. You're removing the first rung of the ladder of a game writing career. So like you're kind of, you might save some time now, but you're also like kind of hobbling this career path going forward in a way that would never return. And so it's the situation where it's like, oh yeah, this sounds fine, but when you look at it from a larger macro point of view, it does present really significant challenges for like jobs in this space.
Mhm. Yeah. Something similar I heard, I think it was on NPR, and it was quite some time ago, and I thought of you, and it's funny that you bring that up about, AI script writing, and all of a sudden it was like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna mention that to Nick."
Hmm.
Apparently, AI and chat and all of those are a problem for, science fiction and horror
Oh,
writing.
I had read that there was a sci-fi magazine that had gotten so inundated
Yeah.
with submissions that were AI generated that they basically closed for submissions for like 6 months.
Right. Right. And it's all being done by just people submitting by GPT. And they were
Mhm.
having an interview with one of the editors of it, and it's like, how do you know? And it's like, they're good. They're really good. They're hard to figure out, but once if you know what you're if you've been in this business and you're an editor and you read a lot of these submissions, you start to see something like you can tell.
Mhm.
And it's
You
hard
start
to
noticing the patterns.
right, you start noticing like, okay, I think that was done by a bot. And then you start seeing more of them. And that's how they knew that they were getting inundated with them, was because they started seeing them, because they've got the critical eye. Like if you read science fiction or whatever, the horror, I think it was science fiction, but if you read a science fiction story written by Chat GPT, you may not know as just the average person, but for experts, they can see it, especially when they see a lot of them in a stack
Yeah.
mixed in with real people's submissions.
I've also heard that it's the Amazon self-publishing is getting flooded with that kind of stuff too.
That also does not surprise me, because all it takes is, all you have to do is hit a button, you can submit 50 bajillion copies of, 50 bajillion different
Yeah.
stories. And if you make, 25 cents on each of them, that can add up to enough money if you do it enough times, if you put enough out there.
Mhm.
What you lack in quality, you can make up for in quantity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Chat
so
GPT, it has the potential of really messing up a lot of things. It's actually it gets into, and in the way that this AI script writing tool, it gets into that fine line between it being a tool that helps people be more efficient and be able to produce creative works, and starts to cross over into actually usurping creative works and getting in the way of genuine people who are making good creative works. Because what happens when what's the name of that painting tool, that AI generated art?
oh yeah,
I can't remember the name of it.
I forget.
But when the technology gets good enough that it's creating better art than people, when Chat GPT starts making stories that are better than what
Well,
most writers can write,
like
then you start to get into the question of, should we have humans writing things at all?
I think the more problematic thing is that it doesn't create art that's better than person. It
Right
doesn't write something
now.
that's better than no, it writes it just good enough,
Mhm.
right? That's the thing. It's good enough. Now, do we really want to pay a person to make art that might be better when we could get something that's good enough
And
for
to do it
cheaper?
for cheaper. Right.
And like that's the thing, it doesn't need to do it better than people. It just needs to be good enough.
Well, that's when it start well, that is an argument that has been had for many, 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 many years, once they started having mass produced art in places like IKEA to decorate your home. There was a
Mm.
point in time when if
Mhm.
you wanted art in your home, you went out and you bought it from someone, and it had to be made by a human or printed by a human. But then when you started to get into mass produced art where you could go to IKEA And you could really tastefully design a home with some really good art, mass produced, just like, they're just printed. And that's when you started to get, that picture of, what was it? The picture of the woman being kissed, on the Armistice Day, not day, but the end of World War II. The
Oh,
girl,
yeah.
right, where you
I know
see
what you're
these, what
talking
do they
about.
call, iconic pictures.
Mhm.
When those started to become mass produced, there's another one that is a very famous photo of a girl in Italy where she's walking, and obviously all the men around her are all catcalling her. It's all black and white, and you could see that she was bothered by it. It's a very famous print. You will know it. Pictures of, like, Audrey Hepburn from some movies, and it's like some landscapes from Europe or from New York. You see them, and it's like, oh yeah, 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 I know that. Some
Mhm.
Toulouse-Lautrec paintings or some French paintings. You'll see those everywhere. And when they start to become mass produced, then you started to. It became a thing of like, all right, well, the average person will go down to IKEA and they will get themselves pictures like everybody else has, and they all put them on the walls, and we all love the pictures, and that's great. But the next step up is to actually have curated artwork that you've gone out to buy. And it doesn't have to necessarily be expensive, but it's unique and unusual, different from everybody else. When you start having I can get different from everybody else, and it is better than most of the stuff that I could go out and buy that's unique and different, then it raises the bar of elitism for good, really good art. It gets very hard for a not exceptional artist to make a living as an artist because there's no middle market,
Yeah.
because you can go out and get middle market good art.
Yeah.
Only the exceptional will ever be able to make even the basic living at what they do. And then they're going to make less money. They're
Oh,
not
yeah. Yeah.
it's going to lower the income bar for all artists unless you are of that, cream of the crop Picassos.
Mhm.
It's I'm sorry about I'm kind of butchering this argument and butchering this kind of question, but it is a question of when AI starts to write stories that are better than the average person,
Mhm.
then the average person no longer can make money at this. When it's
Yeah.
good
Well,
enough, that's
then
one, just good enough, that's one thing, because then humans are better. But when it's better than most humans, that's the problem, is that you will lose all of those humans who will no longer be able to do that. And then it will only be that very thin cream of the crop that are better than the AI. And then as
Oh,
the
yeah.
AI
Yeah.
continues to get better, that cream gets shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
Photography of Ruth Organ. Thank you very much. That's the one. Ruth Organ. I'm going to pull that up right now. So, yeah, it's a little scary, but also I don't think there's anything that we can do to stop it.
Well, not at this point because uh the big old tech companies have grabbed a hold of it and they will find a way to use it.
There it
Microsoft
is.
paid a lot of money for the exclusive license for ChatGPT. They will find a way to incorporate it. Consequences be damned.
There it is. There's the picture we're talking about. That picture. See if I can
Okay.
actually zoom in. There. That one. That picture. That picture is just so iconic. It's everywhere. You've seen it a million times, and you will see those at places, on walls everywhere, in especially like in stage houses and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, moving right along.
Yes. Um Moving along. Well, speaking of the exclusive games,
I was gonna say, like
Valve
cars. Sorry.
no, Valve announced a new game. The people, Gabe, descended from his holy throne to bless us all with Counter-Strike 2.
Oh, yes, I heard that. Really? You've never seen that picture before? Very famous. Also a really cool photograph. Like if you've never seen it, go look at it and just like really like it's very visceral. And especially if you've never seen it before, but then once you've seen it before, you're gonna see it everywhere. So, but what
Counter-Strike 2.
Counter-Strike 2.
Yes, which is funny enough, the 5th Counter-Strike game.
Did you write a thing for that?
Oh, maybe I didn't.
No.
No. But yeah, it's kind of funny. It continues. Valve is able to make the 5th game and name it Counter-Strike 2. We'll have to see if they do 3 because we all know they never make a 3rd game.
Enjoy your final Counter-Strike, guys.
Well, no, see, there was Counter-Strike. I think then there was Counter-Strike Source. Then there was Counter-Strike something. Then there was like Counter-Strike Global Offensive. And now there's Counter-Strike 2, which is actually Counter-Strike 5. But whatever. They haven't like talked a whole lot about it. I think one of the biggest features that they talked about is smoke grenades. Because it seemed in Counter-Strike, smoke grenades are a particularly powerful tool in the game. And they've done an update to that to basically make it more volumetric so that the smoke reacts in different ways. And they have
that's kind of cool.
Excuse me. They have some really cool videos of what this looks like in practice, which is you throw a smoke grenade and then when you shoot bullets through it, the bullets will actually like change the trajectory of the smoke so that like you can kind of see little holes going through.
Oh, that's neat.
Or like if you throw a smoke grenade, boom, like, oh, smoke goes up. Then they throw an actual grenade and the force from the actual grenade dissipates the smoke because it's now the force is all volumetric. It's not just a skin or something placed on the world. Each particle of the smoke is actually being there's a physics being applied to it.
I'm trying to see if I can find where there might be one where a smoke grenade is there. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just a cool effects. That has someone that does not play Counter-Strike, I assume that players overall, the reception to this has been universally positive, which is impressive because for the most part, multiplayer gamers hate everything. Every update is like, this is bullshit. I don't like what is this shit? You're nerfing this? Fuck this. You know, every update
You've changed the recoil. Oh my god, screw you.
Right? They're nerfing this gun.
I'm not gonna lie. I've been watching the Rust cheaters getting caught video by Kamomo, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard him pull people over and go, why are you cheating in Rust? And they're like, I'm not cheating. Like, yeah, you are. No, come on, just tell me. Why do you feel the need to cheat in Rust? They're like, well, I really like the game, and then you change the recoil, and then I decided, well, I'm just going to cheat. It's like, really? That's the reason they changed the recoil on the game, and now you're going to cheat? And I've heard that from more than one person. Insane. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's been met with universal praise for the most part, which like I said, is impressive for any multiplayer game. So it seems like the community is excited for this.
Okay, so there is a video they're responsible. I want to see this.
Oh yeah, here. Let me share.
I can pull it. Oh, you got it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get your hopes up for CS3. That's what I should have named that item.
Okay.
All right, so there's a smoke grenade going out, bouncing around, boing, boing, boinga. All right, so now you've got smoke grenades, and take your finger. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you can see in his little video, like it's treated as like a physical cube.
Right.
So like it wraps around the environment,
Oh yeah, I can see how it wraps around
Yeah, you can
the
see it
boxes and
fills
stuff.
it fills a
Yeah.
confined space.
Oh,
And
neat.
yeah, you can kind of see them shooting holes in it and dissipating it with grenades.
Oh, that's kind of neat. So, and then it comes back.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. So it becomes less like I'm just going to hide myself, and actually becomes a tool that you can use strategically
Yeah.
more than just like, oh, I'm hiding what I'm doing myself. I could actually temporarily hide myself from it and be able to use it to my advantage. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right? It's cool.
Yeah. I'm if that works as successfully as that looks like, that very well maybe not the only game that you see doing that.
Yeah. They also announced a change in, and this I can't get into this, ticks, which I guess the way Counter-Strike records your movement versus another player's movement
Mhm.
online,
Mhm.
they record it in something called ticks. And they've changed that to now have like sub ticks. I don't know the exact technical details of it,
Okay.
but basically they're kind of changing the way that they record your movement through the world versus another player's, and how to keep those in line.
Right. Yeah, that's Valve definitely, when it makes something, it puts a lot of thought into the mechanics of it, and then executes it very, very, very well. And I think in many ways that's exactly why Valve's games are so iconic, and B, why they don't do a new one all the time, like why they stop, because
Mhm.
they just don't. They would rather not do 3 of anything than do a 3 that's exactly like 2. It's just more of 2.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we don't have, Half-Life or anything else like that. It just they don't feel like they want to put the thought into what can we make to do this, what we can do to make this better slash different, and know that we're making better slash different. And I have to respect them for that, that they're not going to shovelware stuff out, even if it is frustrating that I would really like some of those games to come out.
Yeah.
Even if they were repeats, I mean, after 10 years or so, you don't really care if it's just a repeat.
After
I
10
just want
years,
it
it's like,
more.
you know what? I could really go for another Portal. I
Mhm.
don't care if it's just more of the same.
I really could go for another Portal, even if it
I
was
want
more
to
the
chuck
same.
some boxes through some portals.
Abso-freaking-lutely. But they also know that if worse comes to worse, if Valve all of a sudden starts to not make money because, for example, streaming takes over, they just reach into the box, reach into the vault, pull out Half-Life
Yeah.
3, and they'll make a bajillion dollars. It's their reserve fund to keep themselves going, to figure out what they're going to do to make sure that they never go out. They never go under. It's their
They have.
insurance policy.
They finished Half-Life 3. They've finished it for years, but it's behind glass with like an emergency, in case of emergency, break
Break
glass.
glass.
It's like, oh shit, we're not going to make our financial quarterlies.
Yeah. They will always be able to flesh out their kind of, if they lose all their money in crypto, you know where they're going to make the next bajillion dollars? Releasing all the games in releasing number 3 of all the games that we want them to release.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's insurance. I do not argue with that at all. Not in the least. That is good financial sense. You always have a reserve, unless you buy a Tesla, and then you don't. Just saying. All right. So next item, Half-Life 3, but we still need $5 billion to make it. Yeah, that's true. You do need to have that money to make it. So next item.
Next item, Gamescom. The E3 of Europe has announced that its registrations are up 10% from last year, which is a good thing. And it's interesting to see that
Companies registering, or individuals registering to go?
companies.
Oh, do we know what companies are going to be there now?
We don't.
Did they
but
release a list?
we don't, but they have teased that a major company that was not at last year's Gamescom will be at this year's Gamescom. And I also think it's interesting, a contrast, whereas we have E3 that's like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going. Ubisoft, maybe we'll go.
Yeah.
That Gamescom is actually saying, no, we have more people coming than we did last year. So it's just kind of interesting to see the rise of one company with the fall of the other, or the rise of one convention with the fall of the other.
And you know that's a pretty good example of A-being it, of compare and contrast. And the only difference is the ESA.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So let's see. Gamescom 2022.
Yeah,
Here are the
who
publishers
was
that are
there?
attending. Let's see. All right. I am pulling up an article from Gamescom about Gamescom 2022. TK was there. 505, Bandai Namco, Koch Media, I guess we Koch Media, Sega, Team 117, Nordic, Warner Brothers, Xbox. That's not everybody. PlayStation.
if-
Sony was not there.
Yeah, so I wonder if that means Sony or Nintendo.
Or
having
Nintendo.
something there would be interesting.
Let me make sure, and I'm going to look at another. There's got to be another one here. All attending companies and playable games.
Oh, there's over 500 companies have registered for Gamescom 2022.
22. So yeah, they had 500 at 2022. So they now have at least 500 and what they 500. They said 10%, 510%. All right. So it looks like even Nintendo and Sony skipping this year's Gamescom. There we go. So yeah, that's
Definitely feels like one of those.
Mhm.
I would put my money on Sony just because Nintendo doesn't really do a whole lot of big convention show off things.
Yeah. Sega was there. Yeah, I would say that the answer would be Sony or Nintendo. And yeah, I would also bet Sony. Cuz also this is European E3. I'm not saying that Nintendo doesn't really care about the European audience, but they in general, they know their place, they know their people, they know what they've got. They don't need to go anywhere new or different.
They generally just do their own thing.
Right. They have their Nintendo Direct and that's it. That's all they need. And they're fine with that. So I think that that's what it is. It's Sony. It's got to be Sony.
Yeah.
It's got to be Sony.
Well, we'll know sometime before August because Gamescom takes place end of August.
Yeah. Not this year. Because, I spent some money and I'm already spending money in October to go to Bali.
Wait, what? Why did you spend money on?
Huh?
What did you spend a lot of money on?
A Tesla.
Ah.
You fell into that one. That's on you. I wasn't going to say
no, I
it.
know.
You asked.
I know. I had to bring it out.
But I'm going to be going to Bali in October.
That's right.
But, and I don't know if we're going to do PAX this year. We may not, depending on what we see. We're going to see how it goes. Yeah. But just next, you've never been to anything but PAX, right? Like PAX East and PAX West.
Yeah.
And I've been to others. I've been to E3. I've been to Tokyo Game Show. Do you want to go to Gamescom not this year, next year, 2023, 2024?
That could be really cool.
That would be really cool. And I would recommend going to, if you're going to go do an international game show, and I mean this for anybody that wants to go to especially if you're in the United States, especially if you're an English speaker. Actually, if you speak English, which chances are you're probably, if you're listening to this show, you probably do. If you speak English, you probably want to go to Gamescom, it's Gamescom. You probably want to go to Gamescom, not Tokyo Game Show, because Tokyo Game Show was very difficult to navigate. Because you have to think about it from compared to E3. You go to E3, you want to see a game, you walk up and you say, "Hi, I'm press." And they're like, "Would you like to see the game?" You say yes. And then they take you to the game, you try it out, then you move on. If you had somebody that only spoke Japanese and showed up at E3 and said, "Hi, I would like to have a game," and you'd have to like wait for someone to show up that spoke Japanese to show you the game. That's what
Yeah.
happened to me at Tokyo Game Show, is that it was and I don't hold it against them. That is a Japanese game show. They did not have, I mean, there are a lot of people that actually spoke English, but sometimes I would have to wait 2, 3, 4 hours for someone to come to be there who spoke English, and their English was not great. So they couldn't really give me a good overview of what, like the full, like allow me to be able to ask questions and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm glad I went, so I could say that I went. And I'm not gonna lie, the you think you know cosplay. You have not seen cosplay until you go to Japanese Game Con. TGS. TGS cosplay is unbelievable. Unbelievable. But yeah, I think that that would be kind of fun for you and me to do that.
Yeah, I think that sounds cool.
Speak any German?
No.
You want to learn? One of us has got to learn how to at least read German. Otherwise, we could end up at a brothel somewhere, and it's like, I'm just looking for a restaurant. It's like, no, when we meant menu, that was not what we meant. Would you like to see our menu? Oh yeah, I don't think I want that.
Well, just pick up on context clues.
If they're topless and handing you a menu, you're not buying dinner.
It's like, wow, Gamescom has really changed.
Yeah. Wow, these Germans. I mean, I knew they were okay with the topless beaches, but restaurants? All right. So, moving right along.
That's the last that I have.
All right. I did my 3. I've got it. I'm done. Hey, look at that. 3:01 and 46 minutes or 46 seconds. So yeah. All right. So, insert reminder here for cosplay fans to watch the rom-com anime My Dress Up Darling. Is it good?
Oh, I've heard My Dress Up Darling is genuinely really great.
Oh, really? I might watch it, but not tonight because I'm going to be busy. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it tonight. I swear to God. I mean, yeah, as soon as I'm off here, I'm going to walk my dogs, poop my dogs, come back, put on my slippers, my working slippers. I'm even just gonna do like frozen food tonight, and I'm gonna do mass editing, and you will see it tonight.
Okay.
So, thank you. I really will. Anything else before I close out the show?
That's all I got.
All right. Then, that being said, let's close this out.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to GameHounds, episode 673. We recorded this on Sunday, March 26, 2023. I'm Edie Sellers. With me has been Nick Nicola. Ways to get a hold of us: gamehounds.net is our website, and gamehounds@gmail.com is our email. We record this show live every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, here on Twitch and on YouTube. On YouTube, we're GameHounds Vids, all one word, at VIDS is in videos. And on Twitch, we are the GameHounds. If you are watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification button. Seriously, go hit the thumbs up. Give it to us now, please. We do need it. It does actually really surprisingly, even if it's just a couple of you, really help. So thank you very much for it if you have. If you are on Twitch, please like and subscribe. If you are a Amazon Prime member and you've not used your free Prime, go ahead and shoot us a subscription. Doesn't cost you anything. We would definitely appreciate it. We do have an audio podcast, and it will be updated tonight to as close to the most recent as I can by mass editing everything. But you can find it on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, Audible, everywhere you get a podcast is called GameHounds Podcast. Please go there and listen to us. If you prefer to watch your shows or listen to your shows in podcast form, we will be there. I'm going to be probably playing Battlefield tomorrow night. So if anybody you want to join us, you can find us on Discord. By the way, if you haven't joined our Discord, please do so. I actually keep my Discord up now at home all the time. So it actually alerts me when somebody leaves a message. So go ahead and join our Discord. Our Discord is easy to find. You can find it on our YouTube page, on our Twitch page, and we would love to have you there. If you, and if you would like to help support us, we are 100% Patreon funded. And it's thanks to you guys who are our Patreon funders that allow us to be able to do this show. You pay for almost all of the subscriptions. $1 a month is all we ask. Patreon.com/GameHounds. Thank you so much to our current patrons. Peter the Weege, or Tor the Weege, Peter Camo, Eric Baker, Anonymous, Piss, Andy H. You do make all of this possible. We will be back next week. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye. All right, we are out of the audio show. We are still on the thing. Seriously, about hold Edie accountable on Libsyn. Yeah, it's you don't need to. It's tonight's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I mean, unless you know what, even if something goes wrong on downloading on and even if something goes wrong downloading and with because I use Audacity. Because that's always been a concern with my computer. My computer is really struggling, and I really need to essentially clean it up, clean up its brain. Its brain is a very unhappy place. But I have my work computer here with me, and I can actually, if I can't do it on my personal computer, I can actually do it on my work computer tonight. So it's going to get done. Okay. There's no question. I've got a backup, and I've also now got my laptop, my PC.
Yeah,
laptop.
You got your big old gaming laptop.
That will definitely run anything audio I need.
Yeah.
All right. So tomorrow, yeah. I mean, Chunder, if you're still here, yeah, please feel free to join us. If you want to join me tomorrow, I'm gonna be off work in theory like 5-ish, which means I get home at like 6:30-ish Pacific time. So if you want to come on and do some Battlefield, if you've not played Battlefield in a long time, I mean, we talked about it. This is a Battlefield you want to play. This is the fun Battlefield. Way funner than previous Battlefields, in my humble opinion. All right. So everyone, thank you, everyone. I didn't say it in the show, but thanks everyone in the chat room. I'm so glad you were here. And I especially want to say thank you to, I'm looking up the name. Where is it? The person who gave me the crap that I totally deserved. It wasn't Chunder. Can I get back all the way to the beginning? Was it
having trouble?
What was his name? I'm looking. He's here. Oh, hey, Forget Your Life was in here too for a while. I don't know if he's still here.
Oh,
yeah, I haven't seen you in a bit. It was Adrian Hernandez. Adrian, thank you for reminding me and for what's important and giving me a wake up call. See y'all later, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
I bought a Tesla.
I'm so excited, Nick. I'm so excited. Seriously,